Renowned for her beauty and charm, Wen Qingyao was raised in the esteemed He family after the tragic loss of her parents. The He family treated her as one of their own, yet He Jinan remained emotionally distant. She was acutely aware of his indifference and tried to avoid him, but on the day he returned to the country, they ended up in bed together. That He Jinan, the sole heir of the He family, was known for his formidable demeanor and dignified presence, yet he secretly harbored feelings for another. When Qingyao understood that, due to a past incident, he felt compelled to marry her, they quickly obtained their marriage certificate, and she assumed that he would continue to disregard her. To her surprise, however, she found herself seduced day and night by this man, who was known for his self-restraint and aversion to women. Wife, shall we stay up late tonight? On the day He Jinnan's true love returned, when Qingyao believed she would finally be freed from her marriage and proposed a divorce. Let's end our marriage. You can continue your romance with your true love. That He Jinnan, observing the woman presenting him with the divorce papers, chuckled softly before lifting her into his arms and forcefully pushing open the bedroom door, declaring, Wen Yao Yao, tonight we shall thoroughly discuss who your true love really is. After 2 years of marriage, when Qingyao inadvertently opened a hidden storage room belonging to He Jinnan, only to find it filled with evidence of his love for her, leading her to tears. Could it be that the one he loved was, in fact, herself? Chapter 1. Returning home, a night of chaos. Hey sir, Miss Wen is intoxicated at the bar, and it seems that Master Gu is with another woman. The neon lights outside the car window blurred in the rain as He Jinnan gazed upon this familiar city, his thoughts drifting to when Qingyao 2 years prior. While he was abroad attending to business matters, she appeared to be in a passionate relationship with Gu Yinqi, yet it seemed trouble had swiftly arisen. This was to be Wen Qingyao's final chance from him. Upon his return, he had no intention of letting go. The Maybach Pullman halted at the entrance of the bar, and without waiting for the attendant to open the door, He Jinan strode towards the entrance. As he pushed open the heavy glass door, the deafening music assaulted his senses, and colorful lights flickered amidst the haze. His sharp gaze swept across the crowded dance floor until it settled on a corner booth where Wen Qingyao sat alone, several empty glasses before her, her long hair disheveled, and her cheeks flushed with an unnatural hue. He Jinan approached her swiftly, seizing her wrist just as she was about to lift another drink. Wen Yao Yao, that's enough. She sluggishly lifted her head, her dazed eyes blinking as it took her a moment to recognize him. Jinan, why are you back? He had been working in America for the past few years. Her voice was soft, clearly laced with intoxication. I just returned today. He Jinan released her wrist and draped his suit jacket over her shoulders. Come, let me take you home. Suddenly agitated, she pushed his jacket away. No need, I'm waiting for Gu Yinqi. If he arrives, I'll forgive him for everything and won't hold it against him. He Jinan inhaled deeply, witnessing her seek solace in another man, uttering words he wished to ignore. He felt an overwhelming urge to pull her closer and silence her. Yet, he could not give in. He was the virtuous gentleman in her eyes, the cold and unfeeling older brother. Gu Yinqi won't be coming. Be obedient and return with me. Wen Qingyao swayed as she stood, nearly losing her balance, prompting He Jinan to catch her swiftly. How do you know he won't come? He said he would. Seeing her in such a state tightened his chest. Choosing silence, he lifted her effortlessly in his arms and made his way toward the bar's exit. Wen Qingyao struggled briefly before surrendering to her intoxication, resting her head against his chest and softly sobbing. As they exited the bar, the night breeze carried a refreshing chill after the rain. He Jinan was about to place her in the car when he caught sight of a striking red sports car not far away. The headlights illuminated the scene, revealing Gu Yinqi passionately kissing a woman in the passenger seat. He Jinan's pupils constricted, and he instinctively tightened his grip on Wen Qingyao. Feeling a shift in the atmosphere, she drowsily looked up. What's wrong? Nothing. He swiftly turned to shield her view. Let's go home. He hurried to the waiting Maybach, carefully placing Wen Qingyao in the back seat before joining her. Once the car was in motion, she leaned against him, her breathing gradually steadying. He Jinan observed her serene sleeping face, his heart filled with conflicting emotions. The timid little girl who had stood in the He family hall 14 years ago had blossomed into a graceful young woman. Now at 21, she was of legal marrying age. As the car entered the He family's ancestral home, Wen Qingyao began to stir restlessly, mumbling incoherently, He Jinan opened the car door and lifted her once more, striding toward the villa's entrance. Sir. Uncle Chen had been waiting at the door and quickly approached. Is Yao Yao alright? She drank too much. Prepare a hangover remedy and warm towels to be sent to her room. He Jinan instructed, carrying Wen Qingyao upstairs to her bedroom. He gently placed her on the bed, but she suddenly clutched his collar tightly. Don't go. I won't. He Jinan resignedly sat on the edge of the bed, attempting to pry her fingers from his clothing. Let go first. I'll get you the hangover remedy. No. Tears streamed down Wen Qingyao's face. You're all leaving. My parents are gone, and now you will too. I know you dislike me. I understand. He furrowed his brow, halting his movements as she clung to him while he gently wiped away her tears. I do not dislike you. His tone softened, perplexed at what might have led her to believe otherwise. When Qingyao's breathing quickened, her cheeks flushed with an unusual heat. She unconsciously tugged at her clothing, revealing her delicate collarbone. I'm so hot. Her voice trembled, her fingers gripping He Jinnan's shirt as if it were her only lifeline. Realizing something was amiss, He Jinnan's body flushed with heat as he reached out to touch her forehead. It was alarmingly hot. Yao Yao? He frowned, trying to rouse her, his voice low and tense. Tell me, aside from alcohol, what else have you consumed? When Qingyao could no longer comprehend his words, she felt as if countless ants were gnawing at her insides, engulfed in a searing furnace, with the only source of coolness being the man beside her. Instinctively, she moved closer to him, her feverish cheek brushing against his cool hand, emitting soft whimpers tinged with desperation. It's unbearable. I feel so itchy, so hot and itchy. Why is it so itchy? She clumsily tugged at her dress, the strap slipping down to reveal more of her exquisite skin, now flushed with an unusual hue. Her movements, clumsy from intoxication and the effects of the substance, exuded a dangerous and unintentional allure. He Jinnan's breath grew heavier. He was a normal man, and the girl he had cherished for years lay defenseless in his arms, struggling and pleading. He could almost hear the sound of his sanity stretching to its breaking point. Abruptly, he rose to his feet, eager to use cold water to soothe her, to summon a doctor at once, to alleviate her suffering by any means necessary, except through exploiting her vulnerability. However, at the very moment he turned, when Qingyao summoned an unexpected strength, struggling to sit up and tightly embracing his waist from behind. Do not leave. I am afraid alone. Please do not abandon me. Her tears soaked through his shirt, the scorching warmth branding his skin. Wen Yao Yao, gather yourself. His gaze was dark, his voice hoarse, and he had never contemplated possessing her at such a fragile moment. This was not part of any plan he had for winning her heart. He Jinnan, desired her willing affection, not a disoriented state induced by drugs. Yet, witnessing her agony, hearing her desperate pleas, and feeling her abnormal fever, an even stronger impulse began to surge within him. He could not bear to watch her suffer. Wen Yao Yao. He struggled to speak, his voice gravelly and deliberate. Do you know who I am? When Qingyao tilted her head back, her gaze unfocused, yet faintly reflecting his outline. She sobbed, instinctively responding. He Jinnan, you are He Jinnan. This declaration became the final straw that broke the camel's back. The last trace of struggle faded from He Jinnan's eyes, replaced by a profound, almost frenzied determination. He slowly turned to face her, cradling her feverish face, his fingertips gently yet assertively brushing away her tears. Yes, it is I. His deep voice exuded a hypnotic sensuality. Remember, it is I who is by your side tonight. With those words, he no longer hesitated and leaned down to kiss her. Initially, the kiss bore a soothing gentleness, but it quickly ignited a long-suppressed fervor within both of them. When Qingyao responded, inexperienced yet fervent, like a drowning person grasping for air, the effects of the drug and alcohol had thoroughly stripped her of reason, leaving only the most primal instincts. He Jinnan's calm restraint crumbled in that moment, transforming into an aggressive desire for possession. He laid her back onto the bed, his body covering hers. His suit jacket had long been discarded on the floor, and the buttons of his shirt were undone, revealing a robust chest. The night stretched on endlessly. Outside, the rain had begun to fall again, tapping against the glass, drowning out the mingling gasps and whimpers within. Watching the girl in his arms succumb to exhaustion, He Jinnan finally carried her back to his bedroom. Her bed was unfit for sleep, disheveled, the sheets damp like the rain falling outside. After bathing her, he embraced her once more, gently wiping away the traces of tears from the corners of her eyes, his gaze deep. He leaned down and kissed the crown of her head. He acknowledged his own unscrupulousness in taking advantage of her vulnerability, yet the moment she leaned against him, his mind was consumed by two words. Her. Chapter 2 Was last night merely an accident? Before resting, Uncle Chun pondered over the situation. He had prepared a hangover soup and knocked on the door for quite some time, yet no one responded. He shook his head in confusion and descended the stairs. It struck him as odd that both the young master and Yao Yao's room were devoid of light. Had they retired so early? The day had already dawned. Yet the heavy curtains kept the glaring sunlight entirely at bay, leaving the bedroom shrouded in a dim, ambiguous atmosphere. Only the two figures nestled in bed could be discerned. When Qingyao was roused by thirst, her throat parched and dry. So thirsty. Furrowing her brow, she rubbed her aching temples, struggling to open her eyes. As she slowly sat up, she felt an overwhelming sense of fatigue and a throbbing headache. A distinctly sculpted hand offered her a glass of water. Drink. The man's voice was low and husky, clear and restrained, devoid of any remnants of sleep. Still in a fog, when Qingyao barely opened her eyes. Instinctively took the cup and murmured a thank you. However, upon taking a sip, she sensed something was amiss. Suddenly, her eyes widened, and her mind went blank. The room was dim, yet it was sufficient to discern the decor. The minimalist design, dominated by shades of gray and white, revealed bed linens that were unfamiliar to her. This was not her bedroom. She unconsciously mumbled, "Where's this?" The air still held a lingering, ambiguous scent, and the curtains remained drawn. He Jinnan lounged against the headboard, observing the girl's dazed demeanor, and chuckled softly, countering her question, "What do you think?" Wen Qingyao stiffened at the sound of his voice. Her eyes widened in shock, and without thinking, she quickly returned the cup, instinctively lifted the covers. And as her legs touched the ground, a large hand encircled her waist, gently yet decisively pulling her back. "Ah, Jinengo, you let go of me." The man's chest was warm and heated, sending tingles through her scalp. Wen Qingyao turned her face away, having no time to think, desperately trying to free herself from his grasp. Her mind was a tumult of confusion. How could she be lying in bed with Jinengo? Jinan switched on the remote control for the lights, and the once dim room was suddenly illuminated. The brightness stung Wen Qingyao's eyes, causing her to instinctively shut them. Her limbs continued to struggle. "Jinengo, you let go of me." The girl's voice trembled with discernible fear. Jinan held her crossed wrists firmly, his tall frame pressing down upon her. Observing her tightly shut eyes and flushed cheeks, he could not tell whether her embarrassment stemmed from fear or shame. The corners of his mouth lifted slightly. "Wen Yao Yao, open your eyes." It was October, and while the weather in Jingdu was not excessively cold, a light cotton blanket was still necessary at night. Wen Qingyao bit her lower lip. A mix of embarrassment and dread swirling within her, the man's body radiated heat, and she hesitated to open her eyes. Memories of their passionate entanglement from the previous night flooded her mind. She was vexed that her recollections remained so vivid after drinking, contrary to the expected fog of forgetfulness. Each movement, every breath shared between them was indelibly etched in her mind. Why was her drunkenness so different from others? She desperately wished to erase all traces of last night's events. When Qingyao pinched her palm, her face flushed. Her life, usually so orderly, had spiraled into this unforeseen outcome, and the man with whom she had indulged was none other than her austere, noble elder brother. He Jinan had been in the United States for 2 years, expanding the He family's overseas market, during which they had little contact. He returned home for only a few days during the Spring Festival. When Qingyao was well aware that her elder brother had never favored her, she always consciously avoided encounters with him. Now, having offended him in her drunkenness, her impression in his eyes must be even more dismal. Her heart raced as they lay closely intertwined, He Jinan's solid and warm chest against her flushed face. Regret was too late to feel. She needed to address the awkwardness of the moment, yet she still dared not open her eyes. "Jinan Go, about last night. I was drunk. It was an accident. I'm sorry." His chest radiated unbearable heat, and the intensity of his breath made her feel dizzy. She was at a loss for how to explain the absurdity of the previous night. An accident? He Jinan regarded her with a frown, her expression of reluctance causing a flicker of intensity in his gaze. "Wen Yao Yao, I'll say it once more, open your eyes." Wen Qingyao had always feared him, a deep-seated fear that made her comply with his somewhat indifferent tone, slowly opening her eyes. She barely managed to glimpse his face before averting her gaze, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. A fleeting glance revealed the mature physique of a man. The blanket only reached his waist, exposing He Jinan's muscular upper body. His abs were well-defined, and his skin a healthy tan, a testament to years of disciplined exercise. He Jinan grasped Wen Qingyao's chin, turning her toward him. His expression remained as calm as ever. "Did you truly believe last night was merely an accident?" Wen Qingyao pressed her hands against him, desperately trying to escape his searing body, her gaze momentarily drifting. "Yes, Jinan Go, let us consider last night a mistake. Let us act as if nothing happened. You are still my brother." He Jinan's thumb traced her smooth, delicate jawline, silencing her unfinished thoughts. "Is that so? Are you certain you can continue to interact with me normally, treating me as your brother?" Wen Qingyao caught a glimpse of coldness flickering in his eyes, and she fell silent. Words eluded her, it was far too awkward. Deep down, she understood that after such an event, their relationship could never return to the way it once was. He Jinan's arm propped against her cheek, his body leaning closer. The distance between them diminished in an instant, and when Qingyao, startled, placed her hands against his chest. "Jinan Go, hadn't he always disliked her? What was he doing?" Observing her flustered expression, He Jinan's eyes sparkled with mischief, yet his words remained cool and detached, tinged with an undertone of pressure. "Wen Yao Yao, have you forgotten? I am not your brother." When Qingyao was bewildered, how could he have changed so drastically after 2 years abroad? He Jinan had always left her with an impression of gentility and courtesy, like a refined gentleman. Though she knew he disliked her, he had never been unkind. Now, she could not articulate the emotions swirling within her: shame, sadness, awkwardness, embarrassment, regret. Hearing his words, she feared that his disdain for her had deepened, that she was unworthy of being his sister. A wave of unwarranted grievance surged within her. Meeting his dark gaze, she fought against the urge to cry, mustering her courage to speak candidly. "I know you dislike me, and that I am unworthy of being your sister. What happened last night was a mistake. I was drunk and sullied you. It is all my fault, and I will move out as soon as possible." He Jinan furrowed his brows and asked, "When have I ever disliked you? Please clarify." Observing her distant expression, he could not fathom the convoluted thoughts swirling within her heart. A sudden wave of disinterest washed over him, causing the joy he felt upon waking to evaporate entirely. Just as he contemplated whether to inquire further, a soft knock resounded from outside the door. The atmosphere between them dissipated in an instant. When Qing Yao flinched, instinctively retreating slightly, He Jinnan's large hand deftly ruffled her hair, an action that seemed to have been repeated countless times before. He spoke gently, "Do not be afraid." Turning towards the door, he inquired, "What is it?" Standing at the entrance was the family butler, Uncle Fu, who had been by the side of the elder He for many years. Upon hearing the young master's voice, he quickly responded, "Young master, the elder is calling you down for breakfast. They are all waiting for you." Uncle Fu soon heard the young master's command, "Let them eat first. I will come down shortly." "Yes, young master." Uncle Fu's expression was respectful, and without further thought, he turned to leave. Having been in the He family for many years and watching He Jinnan grow up, he was well aware of his habits. The young master maintained a very regular schedule, waking at 6:30 every morning to exercise, but he had risen a bit later that day. He assumed it was normal considering He Jinnan had just returned from abroad and might be fatigued from the long journey. He Jinnan embraced the girl in his arms, noting how she curled up in his embrace, so small and delicate. The earlier feelings of frustration vanished completely. She was right there with him. He chose not to pursue the earlier topic any further. There was still time ahead, and all misunderstandings and emotional distance would eventually dissipate. Moreover, since that man did not cherish her, He Jinnan had ample time and patience to help her forget Gu Yanqi rising from her side. He casually draped a piece of clothing over her head. "Time to get up, everyone is waiting." As he spoke, he lifted the covers and walked towards the bathroom. Wen Qingyao kept her eyes closed, listening to his receding footsteps. Not long after, the sound of water splashing from the bathroom reached her ears. Taking a deep breath, she slowly sat up, still feeling the soreness in her body. Glancing down, she was taken aback. Her skin was marked with a multitude of kisses, almost covering her entire body. The floor beside the bed was strewn with their disheveled clothes, and a piece of white fabric was caught in the man's suit. It was the dress she had worn yesterday. To her dismay, there were also several plastic wrappers. Wen Qingyao's face flushed again as she wrapped herself in the blanket and slowly got out of bed, retrieving the torn remnants of her dress. It was better to wear something rather than nothing at all. She dared not contemplate how many times they had indulged the previous night. The bathroom door, made of frosted glass, allowed her to faintly see the tall silhouette within. Wen Qingyao could not muster the courage to raise her gaze. Gingerly moving her aching body, she approached the door, which opened automatically. He Jinnan caught a glimpse of the white figure outside the glass wall before it quickly disappeared from view. He wiped the droplets of water from his face and swept his hair back, his eyes clouded with a myriad of emotions. Wen Qingyao's bedroom was located at the innermost part of the third floor. Standing before the bathroom mirror, she noticed the red marks around her neck, a testament to the intensity of the previous night. A vivid memory flashed in her mind. She had willingly sat on He Jinnan's lap, her arms wrapped around his neck, breathlessly whispering in his ear, "Do you even know how to?" Then came the memory of He Jinnan's strong hands gripping her waist. Wen Qingyao had never imagined herself as someone so uninhibited, clinging to him like a siren. She slapped her flushed face, vowing not to dwell on it any longer. Drinking leads to trouble. She promised herself never to drink again. Deliberately taking her time, she washed her face and brushed her teeth. After lingering in her room for a while, she concluded that He Jinnan had likely already gone downstairs. Only then did she change her clothes. As she passed by the man's room, her footsteps faltered for a moment but quickly returned to normal. Upon descending the stairs, she heard the cheerful laughter of He Jinzhu from the second-floor landing. Having lived in the He family for 14 years, she had never found the simple act of going down the stairs to be so daunting. Yet, no matter how much she procrastinated, she had to complete the descent. In the hall, the He family members were gathered. When Qingyao exhaled softly, attempting to steady her racing heart, gripping her hands, He Jinzhu was the first to spot her, exclaiming, "Yao Yao? I was just talking about the gift my brother bought. He returned from abroad and only got me a casual necklace. How thoughtless." When Qingyao, 2 years older than He Jinzhu, shared a kindred spirit with her. Though not biologically related, their bond was stronger than that of sisters. With a smile, when Qingyao approached and sat beside He Jinzhu, playfully pinching her rosy cheeks. After greeting the elders, she deliberately avoided mentioning the subject of He Jinzhu's complaints and shifted the topic. "Aren't we supposed to eat? Let's hurry, I'm starving." Mama He rose and walked over, gently patting He Jinzhu's shoulder with a slightly reproachful tone. "You should be grateful. Your brother traveled all the way from America and still thought of bringing you a gift. What more could you ask for?" Chapter 4. He Jinnan followed closely behind her as Chairman He Tsung-kun interjected, always causing a ruckus. "Look at Yao Yao. She never complains, always calm and composed. It's all because of you." He Jinzhu pouted, playfully shaking Wen Qingyao's arm. "Yao Yao, look how they bully me." Wen Qingyao had moved into the He family at the age of 7. The Wen and He families had been close friends for generations, both prominent families in the capital. After her biological parents passed away unexpectedly, the elder He took pity on the girl and brought her into the He household. The He family had long regarded Wen Qingyao as their own daughter. Although there were 2 daughters and 1 son, one would think they were exceedingly happy. Chairman He was often exasperated by his chatty daughter, who would complain about the slightest inconvenience. He could not comprehend how one daughter could be so quiet while the other could create such a commotion. His son, on the other hand, was steady in demeanor but far too cold, always resolute in his opinions. 2 years prior, when He Jin-nan suddenly decided to explore the market in America. Given his qualifications, he could have easily sent someone to oversee the matter. No matter how he urged He Jin-nan, his son would not listen. In the end, he decided to let him go to America for 2 years. Turning his gaze back to his son, who had returned after 2 years, he noticed that while He Jin-nan maintained his aloof demeanor, something felt different. In fact, 2 years prior, both he and the elder he had intended to betroth Wenqing Yao to He Jin-nan, considering their family's close ties and the compatibility of the girl with the elder's expectations. Having grown up alongside her, he was thoroughly pleased with her as a prospective daughter-in-law. After all, it was better to keep resources within the family. And the He family was unconcerned with rumors, as they had a long-standing friendship with the Wen family. He recalled mentioning this to He Jin-nan, who simply replied, "She has someone in her heart, let it be." Chairman He now recalls the tone of He Jin-nan at that time, seemingly tinged with a sense of melancholy and reluctance. He also observes that his son's gaze remains fixated on Yao Yao, oscillating between the two of them. He Tsung-kun takes a sip of tea, lost in thought. Could it be that his ascetic son harbors feelings for Yao Yao? He Jin-nan, holding a teacup, occasionally takes a sip, his eyes continually resting upon the person who avoids his gaze. Wenqing Yao is attired in a high-necked top, complemented by a white knitted cardigan, paired with dark wide-leg trousers. Her long hair loosely tied into a low ponytail. A gentle smile graces her lips, her eyes curving in mirth. In contrast to the alluring charm of the previous evening, she now embodies the essence of youthful exuberance. He Jin-nan's eyes remain partially lowered, concealing the depths of his brooding thoughts. Observing the lively banter among the family, Grandpa He, with a beaming smile, decides it is time to begin the meal, proclaiming, "All right, I see Zhu Zhu is enjoying herself, let us eat." He Jinju's, who adores her grandfather, beams, "Exactly, Grandpa, I think I'm doing splendidly." She skips over to assist Grandpa He towards the dining room. Wenqing Yao follows behind them, and if one were to look closely, they might notice the slight stiffness in her steps. Biting her lip, she is acutely aware of He Jin-nan leisurely trailing behind her. In the dining room, Grandpa He occupies the seat of honor, with He family parents and He Jinju seated on the left, while He Jin-nan and Wenqing Yao are situated on the right. The He family is numerous. Grandpa He has 2 sons and 2 daughters. He Tsung-kun is the eldest, residing in the main building with his family. The second son, He Jingsheng, lost his wife early on and has only 1 daughter, He Ran, who is also He Jinju's cousin, living in a building behind the main one, only attending family gatherings once a week. The other 2 daughters of Grandpa He are already married, leading comfortable lives, as the He family name ensures a certain status. The atmosphere at the table is lively, with He Jinju's doing most of the talking, while others occasionally chime in. In contrast, the mood between He Jin-nan and Wenqing Yao is somewhat subdued. Wenqing Yao, typically reserved, speaks even less during meals now. Yet, she alone knows the discomfort she feels, sitting there as if on pins and needles, overwhelmed by the aura beside her, daring only to eat a few dishes within reach. Out of the corner of her eye, she sees the man sitting there with an air of effortless elegance, causing her heart to race despite his silence. Today, the food seems tasteless to her as she absently pushes her rice around. Suddenly, a large masculine hand appears in her line of sight, followed by a piece of exquisitely cooked red braised pork appearing on her plate, perfectly balanced in fat and lean meat. He Jin-nan's calm and steady voice reaches her ears. "Why are you only eating these? You should eat more to gain some weight." His words and demeanor are perfectly appropriate, devoid of any hint of impropriety. Wenqing Yao's body involuntarily shivers slightly as she raises her eyes to meet his. His gaze is steady, his expression perfectly normal, as if nothing unusual has transpired. Wenqing Yao lowers her eyes, concealing her emotions, and softly replies, "Thank you, Jinan Ge." This form of address seems to hint at something, as if masking deeper feelings. He Jinan, noticing the tremor in her voice and the pallor of her complexion, which is not as rosy as usual, lightly taps his fingers on the table and inquires, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Grandpa He, observing the exchange, notices Wenqing Yao's unusual demeanor and asks, "What's the matter, Yao Yao? Is the food not to your liking? Why are you only eating those few dishes?" Called out, Wenqing Yao's lashes flutter, and she swallows the food in her mouth without responding to He Jinan's question. With a gentle smile directed at Grandpa He, she assures, "No, Grandpa. The food is delicious, I've eaten quite a bit." He Jinan watches her feign ignorance towards his inquiry, discreetly sipping his soy milk, swallowing hard. She is being so obedient in front of the elders. He Jinju's, noticing her nearly empty plate, shoots an annoyed look at her elder brother, "Big brother. It's all your fault. Ever since you returned, Yao Yao has been afraid of you, and now she dares not eat." Her words are laden with ambiguity, especially after last night, prompting Wenqing Yao to instinctively misinterpret them. He Jinan, unfazed, casually replies, "What have I done to her? You should ask Wenqing Yao." This offhand remark shatters the carefully restrained image, flooding Wenqing Yao's mind with memories of the previous evening's intensity. Her face flushes crimson, and she stutters, Jinan Gu treats me very well. It's just that I feel a bit unwell today, and I have no appetite. It's not his fault. Indeed, she feels aches throughout her body, particularly in her limbs and back, as if trampled by a heavy weight. Jinan tilts his body slightly, noticing her paler and weaker complexion, frowning slightly as he states in a deep voice, "If you're not feeling well, you should rest. We are all family, so there is no need to push yourself." When Qing Yao pauses momentarily, unconsciously glancing at Jinan before averting her gaze again, his expression remains composed and indifferent, a stark contrast to the uncontrolled emotions from the previous night. Mama chimes in, her voice laced with concern. "Yes, Yao Yao, you should rest for a while. I will call the family doctor to take a look at you. Girls must not neglect their health." When Qing Yao hastily interjects, "No need, auntie. I just didn't rest well last night. A good sleep will suffice." Both she and Jinan are acutely aware of the reason for her poor rest. She rises, bidding farewell to everyone as she leaves. As she stands, her legs feel weak, but it is Jinan who discreetly supports her waist, preventing her from falling in plain sight of others. When Qing Yao slowly ascends the stairs, the lingering warmth of his hand on her waist still palpable, sending a tingling sensation through her. She is a third-year student at Jing University's Music Academy, and fortunately, it is Sunday, as her current physical state would not allow her to attend class otherwise. When Qing Yao drowsily lies in bed, on the verge of sleep, just as she is about to drift off, a sound at the door jolts her awake. She dares not make a sound, shrinking her head beneath the covers. She distinctly remembers locking the door after falling asleep. Only Jinan resides on the third floor, and others seldom come up. She already knows who it is. Her bedroom is adorned with a soft carpet, muffling any sound. Trembling with trepidation, she feels helpless, unsure of how to face Jinan, and resorts to pretending to be asleep. Though she cannot hear him, she senses his piercing presence. Jinan quietly stands by her bedside, hands tucked into his pockets, his gaze resting upon her exquisite features. His expression remains placid as he observes her for a considerable time before approaching, just as his hand brushes against her blanket. A slender hand seizes his lean wrist. Jinan looks up, finding Wen Qing Yao's glistening eyes filled with a hint of plea. "Jinan Gu, what are you doing?" They lock eyes for a moment, but ultimately, Wen Qing Yao cannot withstand the weight of his profound gaze and turns her face away. Jinan gazed at her profile, remaining silent. He gently clasped her delicate hand, feeling the warmth of her palm. With a sigh from the depths of his heart, he placed the medicine in her hand. Speaking softly, "Do not overthink. It was my fault last night that caused you harm. Apply the medicine yourself and have a good rest." Observing her lying there, seemingly unfazed, he placed the exquisite gift box beside her pillow and continued, "This is a gift for you. I did not finish my words this morning. I do not harbor any dislike for you, and there is no need for you to move out." With that, he tucked her hand under the covers, cast a lingering look at her, and turned to leave. Hearing the soft click of the door closing, Wen Qing Yao pressed her lips together and glanced at the door. After a moment, her gaze fell upon the white ointment in her hand. Upon reading the instructions, her previously calm heart began to race again. It could be taken orally or applied externally. After much inner turmoil, she could not resist the pervasive soreness throughout her body and rose to enter the bathroom. After applying the medicine with flushed cheeks, she returned to bed. The bedroom curtains automatically parted, allowing the golden sunlight to filter through the glass and illuminate the carpet in serene tranquility. Her eyes fell upon the square, exquisite gift box beside her, its packaging indicating substantial value. In truth, Jinan would always bring gifts for everyone upon his return, and she would receive her share, though it had always been delivered by the butler. This was the first time Jinan had personally given her a gift. Wen Qing Yao blinked, recalling her 18th year, after graduating from the college entrance examination when Gu Yanqi had invited her out. On that day, she wore a cream-colored knee-length skirt and light makeup. Passing by Jinan's room, she had not expected her elder brother to be home. Suddenly, he opened the door, clad in a tailored black suit, exuding a cold demeanor. Feeling anxious, Wen Qing Yao greeted him, "Jinan Gu." Jinan's piercing gaze scrutinized her for a moment, and just when she thought he would ignore her, he coldly inquired, "Where are you going?" Her discomfort intensified under his gaze, which seemed to linger on her exposed calves. She hesitated and replied, "A friend invited me out." His eyes were too sharp, and she instinctively refrained from mentioning Gu Yanqi's name, fearing any misstep might provoke Jinan's disdain. His temperament was too frosty, and he rarely spoke to her, leading her to believe he disliked her. Fortunately, Jinan did not pursue the matter further. He remained silent for a long while before stating, "Come home early." He cast one last deep look at her and departed. After that day, Jinan went to America and seldom returned. At the time, she thought the impatience and chill in his last glance were directed at her, although she could not discern the reason for his displeasure. Wen Qing Yao exhaled, pondering why she was overthinking. She pulled the covers over herself and closed her eyes. Monday arrived. Wen Qing Yao had class at 8 o'clock. After a day of rest, her body felt much better. The ointment Jinan provided was quite effective, and the soreness had significantly diminished by morning. As she walked down the corridor, Her peripheral vision caught a glimpse of the closed door before she descended the stairs. He Jinju noticed when Qing Yao had come downstairs, took a bite of her sandwich, and mumbled, "Yao Yao, come eat breakfast quickly. We are running out of time." He Jinju was also studying at Jing University, majoring in journalism in her freshman year. The two rarely stayed on campus, as the He family had a driver for transportation. Upon entering the dining room, Wen Qing Yao scanned the area but did not see any sign of the man, allowing the tension in her heart to ease. She sat across from He Jinju, took a sip of milk, and inquired, "Where are Grandpa and the others?" He Jinju handed her a piece of bread. "I don't know. I didn't see anyone when I came down just now. I have no idea what they are doing so early." Wen Qing Yao nodded, choosing not to press further. As He Jinju chewed her sandwich, she observed Wen Qing Yao quietly consuming her porridge, her expression betraying a hint of hesitation. Wen Qing Yao filled a small bowl with porridge, as she had a habit of eating it for breakfast, and after taking a spoonful, she glanced at He Jinju. Puzzled, "What's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that?" Not detecting anything unusual on her face, He Jinju cautiously ventured, "Yao Yao, did you know Gu Yanqi is engaged?" The news of Gu Yanqi's engagement had not yet spread widely. Wen Qing Yao had stumbled upon it while idly scrolling through the tedious socialite group chat, where congratulatory messages flooded the screen. Maintaining her calm demeanor, she continued to eat her porridge, smiling softly. "Yes, I know." He Jinju's eyes widened in surprise. "You know," observing Wen Qing Yao's unflinching expression. She was astonished. "Didn't he like you? How could he suddenly get engaged to another woman? I thought you two would be together after graduation." The person Gu Yanqi was to marry was none other than Lin Wantong, the very cousin she found most intolerable, an embodiment of a green tea BTCH. Lin Wantong was also her relative. Their mothers were sisters. He Jinju attended the same school as Wen Qing Yao during middle school. At that time, she was a freshman while Wen Qing Yao was in her senior year. No one knew the situation between Wen Qing Yao and Gu Yanqi better than she did. Although Gu Yanqi had feelings for Wen Qing Yao, his behavior was notoriously reckless, always surrounded by beautiful women, which could be crudely described as that of a playboy. Despite the fact that he had never truly engaged with other women, Wen Qing Yao feared his heart might stray, which was why she had never agreed to be with him. They had agreed that if their feelings remained unchanged after graduation, she would accept his proposal. Thinking of the intimate photos Lin Wantong had sent her, which featured records of Gu Yanqi and Lin Wantong in hotel rooms. One particular image lingered in her mind, Gu Yanqi embracing Lin Wantong passionately. Once, Gu Yanqi had looked at her in the same way, and she had believed he was deeply in love, almost succumbing to his pursuit. Now it seemed that his affections could be easily bestowed upon another, capable of feigning profound sentiment. A warmth threatened to rise in her eyes. She swallowed hard against the bitterness in her throat and managed a nonchalant smile. "It's nothing. We were never together, so it's quite normal for him to get engaged to someone else." She quickly lowered her head. Fearful that He Jinju would notice the tears welling in her eyes, she did not wish to appear vulnerable in front of her family. He Jinju, observing Wen Qing Yao's restrained demeanor, felt a pang in her heart. Furrowing her brows as she set down her food and rushed over to embrace the slender figure of Wen Qing Yao. "I'm sorry, Yao Yao. I shouldn't have brought that up. Please don't be upset." Wen Qing Yao shook her head, her body trembling silently without a sound. "I'm not upset. I just feel like crying a little." She patted her hand, as if to convey that she did not want He Jinju to worry. He Jinju pulled out a tissue to wipe her tears away, trying to comfort her. "Yao Yao, don't cry. He isn't worth it. You are so wonderful. You shouldn't be sad over such a scoundrel. I'll find someone 1,000 times better for you. Once Grandpa and the others return, I'll tell them and have them confront the Gu family for an explanation. Just wait and see. I'll make sure he pays for this. That scoundrel. May he face difficulties in the future." The elders of the He family were unaware of Gu Yanqi's pursuit. They only knew that Wen Qing Yao had always regarded him as her older brother due to his kindness towards her. It was Gu Yanqi who took her and her parents to the hospital back then, bustling about. Wen Qing Yao, initially engulfed in sorrow, was amused by her slightly inappropriate words. She embraced He Jinju and gently remarked, "Thank you, Juju, but there's no need. He and I will no longer be involved with each other. It is unnecessary to disturb him again." Setting aside other matters, each member of the He family treated her with kindness. And it was precisely because of this foundation of love that she refrained from seeking Gu Yanqi for validation upon encountering those repugnant photographs. Nevertheless, the bond forged through years of growing up together lingered. Even devoid of romantic feelings, Gu Yanqi had always treated her well, like an older brother. What warmed her heart the most was that every year on her parents' Memorial Day, before visiting the cemetery, she would find a bouquet of flowers placed upon her parents' gravestone. When she inquired if it was Gu Yanqi who paid homage to her parents, he evaded the question. And Wen Qing Yao could not fathom anyone else who would secretly honor them, always believing Gu Yanqi to be that person. Now, her only sorrow was that they could never return to the past, and along with that, her gratitude towards him seemed to have been exhausted. In a corner unseen by either of them, He Jin quietly leaned against the entrance, his deep, shadowy gaze settling upon the girl a few meters away. Her eyes reddened from tears, his expression inscrutable. It turned out they had never been together. Ah, you scared me, He Jinju exclaimed, startled by the figure she spotted as she approached the entrance. Once she recognized the refined silhouette, she calmed herself and asked, Elder brother? What are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be at work today? He Jinju was perplexed. Her elder brother, who was usually a model of discipline and a workaholic, was unexpectedly at home past 8 o'clock. When Qin Yao, following closely behind He Jinju, paused mid-step, raising her eyes to meet the profound darkness of the man's gaze. Indeed, he was the one she wished to evade most at this moment. He Jin Nan was clad in a well-tailored suit, with a navy pocket square that matched his tie. The buttons of his suit were left undone, revealing a crisp white shirt and a black-gray waistcoat beneath. One hand rested casually in his pocket, where a hint of understated yet valuable coral peeked from the cuff. In his other hand, he held an unlit cigarette. How long had he been listening? The awareness that he overheard her intimate conversation with He Jinju left her feeling inexplicably embarrassed. She feigned calmness as she approached him. Greeting, Jin Nan go. He Jin Nan nodded and addressed the two, saying, I will give you a ride. When Qin Yao pretended not to hear, silently changing her shoes, she heard He Jinju's voice asking if the driver was not available today. He Jin Nan glanced at Wen Qin Yao, who was avoiding his gaze, and stepped outside, saying, Grandfather has something to attend to. The driver won't be back for a while. Was there only that one driver in the family? He Jin Nan walked ahead, while He Jinju quietly pointed at her elder brother with suspicion, whispering to Wen Qin Yao, Yao Yao, do you think Big Brother took the wrong medicine today? Why is he driving us to school? Wen Qin Yao, who was already apprehensive of He Jin Nan, dared not speak ill of him in his presence. Even though she and He Jinju often criticized him behind his back, she tugged at He Jinju, lower your voice, Zhu. He'll hear you. He Jinju was less timid, continuing to chatter, oh, it's fine, Big Brother won't mind. The He family garage was located on the basement level, where He Jin Nan, during his university days, had a penchant for cars, showcasing an array of high-performance sports cars. Today, however, he had chosen a more business-appropriate Maybach Pullman instead of his usual Bugatti. Wen Yao Yao, get in the car. Wen Qin Yao, still discussing his shortcomings with He Jinju, was abruptly alerted when she heard her name, silencing herself in a fit of guilt, akin to being caught speaking ill of someone right in front of them. She raised her eyes to see He Jin Nan already at the car, opening the passenger door. His gaze fixed on her, his intent unmistakable. When Qin Yao felt her face flush, the two girls hastily approached the vehicle. He Jinju raised an eyebrow, glancing back and forth between He Jin Nan and Wen Qin Yao, sensing an unusual atmosphere between them, and questioned, Yao Yao, when did you become so familiar with my elder brother? Turning to He Jin Nan, she added, Elder brother, you actually opened the car door for someone? This earned her a playful flick on the forehead from her brother. He Jin Nan looked at the pouting He Jinju with a hint of exasperation, saying, stop talking nonsense and get in. Wen Qin Yao did not respond to He Jinju's question, too timid to meet He Jin Nan's gaze, especially after what had transpired between them. She adjusted her bag on her shoulder. Jin Nan go, I'll sit in the back with Zhu. She avoided looking at He Jin Nan's reaction, pulling He Jinju's hand as they climbed into the car. He Jin Nan's gaze lingered on Wen Qin Yao's retreating figure as he silently closed the door. Brother, how long will you be staying this time? He Jinju leaned over the front seat to inquire, watching her elder brother drive. He Jin Nan glanced in the rearview mirror when Qin Yao was turned away, her delicate neck forming a graceful curve as she looked out the window. He redirected his focus, his strong hands deftly maneuvering the steering wheel. This time, I want to be leaving. When Qin Yao's eyelashes fluttered involuntarily. What? Brother, are you going to stay in the capital? What about the company in America? He Jinju's tone was laden with concern, her head nearly stretching forward. If her brother stayed home indefinitely, how could she continue her reign at home? He Jin Nan paid her grievances no mind, responding calmly, I have arrangements for that side. Oh, He Jinju's expression soured, her face falling as she turned her head, suddenly asking, brother, do you have any plans for this trip? I heard Sister Inyu is also returning soon. Are you two finally getting married? When Qin Yao's fingers faltered momentarily, and she lifted her gaze, meeting He Jin Nan's eyes in the rearview mirror. His gaze was deep, inscrutable like an abyss. When Qin Yao bit her lip, subtly averting her gaze. The person He Jinju mentioned was someone she had met once, Cui Inyu, the daughter of the Cui family. That day, returning home from school, she had spotted several elders standing at the entrance of the He family villa, including He Jin Nan and Cui Inyu. Cui Inyu was dressed in a dark cashmere coat, her long hair neatly styled, exuding a gentle and dignified demeanor. Standing alongside He Jin Nan, they appeared as a couple blessed by the heavens. Their backgrounds, education, and appearances were all remarkably compatible. He Jin Nan, with his noble and aloof demeanor, seemed destined to be with such a refined and gracious young lady. At that time, Wen Qin Yao assumed they were in a romantic relationship, having reached the stage of introducing each other to their families. Not wanting to intrude, she discreetly entered through the side gate of the He family, oblivious to the deep gaze that had been fixed upon her. As she watched the scenery outside the car window recede at a steady pace, she suddenly heard He Jin Nan's cold voice, Who told you we were getting married? He Jinju was puzzled. Brother, you and Inu Jiejia are mutually affectionate. Isn't marriage a natural progression? He Jinnan pushed her head back, which was obstructing his view, and glanced at the road conditions. How would I know if we are mutually affectionate? Children should not meddle in adult matters. He Jinju pouted, vexedly murmuring, you're the child. Your whole family is made up of children. With that, she turned to embrace Wen Qing Yao's delicate arm, huffing in annoyance, and pointedly advised, Yao Yao, you must never date a man like this, cold temperament and sharp tongue. At the intersection, the red light turned on. He Jinnan slowly pressed the brake, his voice cold. He Jinju. The warning in his tone was unmistakable. Upon hearing her full name, He Jinju ceased her chatter, huffed twice, and refrained from further provocation, obediently leaning against Yao Yao's slender shoulder. After all, she still relied on her elder brother for sustenance, and considering the monthly allowance of 200,000, she decided not to hold it against him. When Qing Yao pinched He Jinju's chubby cheek, smiling gently, He Jinnan pressed the accelerator, glanced at the rearview mirror, and fell silent. He Jinju, studying at the film academy in Jingcheng, exited the car and, from the window, bade Yao Yao farewell, anxiously reminding her frosty elder brother, remember to safely deliver Yao Yao to school. He Jinnan tapped his finger on the steering wheel, impatiently urging, why waste words? Am I going to sell her? He Jinju huffed twice, closed the car door, and stormed off in a huff. Once He Jinju exited the vehicle, the atmosphere inside the car grew suddenly quiet. The soundproofing of the Maybach was exceptional, muffling the outside clamor. He Jinnan rested one hand on the central console and the other on the steering wheel, the deep black coral on his slender wrist glimmering. He turned to look at the well-behaved Wen Qing Yao in the back seat, softly saying, come here, sit in the front. Wen Qing Yao tightened her fingers, looking up at him. It's all right, brother, I'm fine sitting here. Although the man appeared relaxed in his posture, his demeanor exuded an air of authority that commanded respect. He Jinnan gazed intently at her, remaining silent. The unyielding intensity in his eyes made Wen Qing Yao's heart flutter. After a prolonged moment of eye contact, she yielded. Despite their intimate relationship, the imposing figure of He Jinnan rooted itself deep within her heart, sprouting feelings of trepidation. Unconsciously, she felt a surge of timidity. Sitting in the passenger seat, Wen Qing Yao fastened her seatbelt and placed her backpack on her lap, turning her face to gaze out the window. Observing her stiff posture, He Jinnan started the car and casually asked, did you apply the medicine? Taken aback by his sudden inquiry, Wen Qing Yao felt her cheeks flush, replying softly, yes, I did. He Jinnan nodded, continuing, how's the effect? Is your body still uncomfortable? Wen Qing Yao bit her inner cheek. She truly wished to avoid discussing such private matters, but she persevered and replied, it's much better now. He Jinnan tapped the steering wheel with his finger, glancing at her before returning his focus to the road. I'm sorry for the first time. I lacked experience and hurt you. Next time, it should be much better. His tone was sincere and earnest. Wen Qing Yao's heart raced, yet she remained silent, the redness in her ears betraying her bashful feelings. She was astonished that He Jinnan, nearly 30 years old, had never been with a woman, leading her to overlook his subsequent statement. She understood that wealthy scions in high society often indulged in romantic entanglements. She knew He Jinnan was typically aloof and uninterested in women. However, she was surprised that after 2 years in America, immersed in its liberal culture, he could still maintain his integrity. Unable to resist, Wen Qing Yao stole a glance at the man driving. With one hand gripping the steering wheel, his profile was illuminated by the fluctuating light, outlining a resolute and chiseled visage. His shirt and vest hugged his robust chest. He Jinnan possessed a distinct air of nobility, his composure emanating from deep within, devoid of the arrogance characteristic of wealthy youth. It was a mature demeanor, exuding a magnetic charm that drew women in, more pronounced than 2 years prior. Wen Qing Yao diverted her gaze, suppressing her tumultuous heartbeat. Chapter 8. That night. It seemed you were more proactive. He Jinnan naturally sensed her scrutinizing gaze, but chose not to address it. Speaking with calm assurance, I will take responsibility for that night and marry you. His tone was serious, resolute, without room for negotiation. Wen Qing Yao abruptly turned her head, realizing from his expression that he was not joking, and stammered, and no, it's fine, Jinnan Go. You don't need to take responsibility, and there's no need for marriage. Marriage? She had never contemplated such a notion. He Jinnan interrupted her, no need? Do you think a one-night stand is so casual that you can easily engage with another man? Wen Qing Yao was momentarily taken aback, instinctively retorting, of course not. That night was an accident. I never expected it to be with you. If that's the case, isn't marriage a necessity? Besides, I recall you being more proactive that night. Wen Qing Yao's mind exploded with confusion, her ears burning as if they were about to bleed. He Jinnan, unfazed, continued to steer the wheel, seemingly unaware of her blushing face, adding, not just you. Is my chastity not important? Shouldn't you be responsible for taking my first time? He spoke so earnestly that it felt as though he was the one at a disadvantage. Wen Qing Yao's thoughts were completely derailed by his bold words. She struggled to find the right words to explain and could only focus on the main point. But, But we can't get married. You're Jin Nan Go. How could we possibly marry? He Jin Nan noticed a hint of wavering in her expression, gently coaxing, you need not worry. I will discuss it with my family. There will be no rumors. All that matters is your consent. Wen Qingyao found it incomprehensible that their conversation had shifted to her merely agreeing to marry. She had never envisioned any intersection with He Jin Nan. Their relationship had always been superficial, merely exchanging greetings during festivals and celebrations. Yet now, the discussion had escalated to marriage, and he expected her to take responsibility? He, the esteemed president of the He Corporation, overseeing thousands of livelihoods and worth billions, expected a young girl like her to be accountable? No one would believe it if she shared this. In truth, Wen Qingyao herself did not believe it. Tentatively, she speculated, brother, do you have some hidden reason for wanting to marry that I should help you conceal? After all, he had just mentioned that Cui Enyu was not with him. Could it be that He Jin Nan was pining for her? Was she merely bait to evoke jealousy in Cui Enyu? Or perhaps He Jin Nan was interested in men? That night, He Jin Nan initially failed to comprehend Wen Qingyao's insinuations, but upon noticing her inscrutable expression, he cleared his throat. A rare crack appeared on his usually composed visage, and he spoke with restrained irritation. What are you imagining? What nonsense is filling your head? Wen Qingyao awkwardly glanced at him, refraining from stating her stance on marriage. Until they reached their destination, neither of the two spoke another word. The Maybach came to a gradual halt near Jingda. Undoing her seatbelt, Wen Qingyao hurriedly bid farewell to the man beside her, preparing to exit the vehicle. Only to hear a click. Puzzled, she turned to see He Jin Nan had unexpectedly locked the door. Jin Nan Go, could you please unlock the door? He Jin Nan released his seatbelt, leaning slightly towards her, causing Wen Qingyao to instinctively place her hands protectively over her chest, a gesture of caution. He Jin Nan noticed her posture, seemingly unperturbed, and calmly spoke. Qingyao, please give my words careful thought, and provide me with your answer tonight. He Jin Nan was often enveloped in a subtle scent of sandalwood, as the housekeeper would infuse his suits with fragrance before he wore them, imparting a calming effect that mellowed his otherwise cool demeanor. At that moment, the unique aroma seemed to envelop the girl as well. Gazing at his gentle features, perhaps it was the softness in He Jin Nan's tone that caused her to unconsciously relax, and she slowly nodded in agreement. All right. He Jin Nan smiled, ruffling her fluffy hair with his large hand, unlocking the door and softly encouraging her, go on. Wen Qingyao stepped out of the car, clutching her backpack in a daze. It was only when she reached the teaching building that the realization struck her. He Jin Nan had actually patted her head. Deep within, it felt as though an invisible breeze had rippled across a tranquil lake, creating subtle disturbances on the surface. The courses in her third year were no longer as demanding, predominantly focusing on her major. As a piano major, she only needed to practice under her mentor's guidance in the mornings. The morning passed swiftly, but today, Wen Qingyao found herself somewhat distracted. The piece her professor wanted her to practice was one she had played countless times in private, yet she had missed several beats. Her mind was entirely preoccupied with He Jin Nan's bewildering proposal to marry him. Even Gu Yanqi's flirtation with another girl barely registered on her radar. In the practice room, it was just her and her fellow major student, Tang Linlin. Thankfully, the professor was absent that day. Otherwise, given his impatient nature, she would surely have faced reprimand. Tang Linlin stepped out to fetch a glass of water, returning to interrupt Wen Qingyao's reverie. All right, Qingyao, stop playing for now and have some water. You seem a bit off today, you've missed several beats. Wen Qingyao accepted the cup with gratitude, taking a generous sip that quelled much of her inner turmoil. Tang Linlin, a classmate from university, was known for her straightforward and loyal personality, and she and Wen Qingyao shared a good rapport. Linlin was one of the few who knew about the relationship between Wen Qingyao and Gu Yanqi. Closing the piano, Wen Qingyao stood and stretched, vaguely muttering. I've just not been resting well these past few days. I'm a bit tired today. Tang Linlin did not dwell on her words. Nor could she have imagined that in merely 2 days, this friend, who usually acted like a gentle little rabbit, had lost her innocence. Linlin nodded, glancing at the time on the wall. It's lunchtime, let's go eat. After practicing for the morning, Wen Qingyao's fingers felt slightly sore. She wasn't particularly hungry, but she still replied, okay, let's go. Remaining in the practice room felt rather dull, so a stroll outside would be refreshing. At the Jingda cafeteria, the two found an empty table to sit at. Wen Qingyao had little appetite and ordered a bowl of wontons. She took a spoonful of the fragrant broth while listening to Tang Linlin recount her weekend escapades. Suddenly, a commotion arose near the entrance. Although Jingda was a university campus, it resembled a microcosm of society, teeming with hidden talents. A seemingly ordinary student might very well be the heir to a publicly listed company or have influential relatives in high positions, individuals not to be trifled with. Gu Yanqi, with his prestigious background and decent looks, was undoubtedly one of the well-known young masters at the university. Wherever he went, he attracted the gaze of most onlookers. Wen Qingyao had long since grown accustomed to this phenomenon and assumed it was merely an inspection visit from some high-ranking official. However, the next moment, she heard Tang Linlin gasp and tap her shoulder. Qingyao, it's Gu Yanqi. Is he here to find you? Sensing Lin Lin's sudden silence, Wen Qingyao had an inkling of what was happening, Yet she said nothing and continued sipping her soup. Lin Lin's eyes widened in disbelief as she pointed at Lin Wantong, who stood beside Gu Yanqi, then quickly withdrew her hand, staring in astonishment at Wen Qingyao, who remained calm and collected. Qingyao, how could Gu Yanqi and Lin Wantong? Understanding the question in Lin Lin's eyes, Wen Qingyao's expression remained placid as she clarified, it's exactly as you see. They are currently in a relationship. Lin Lin was taken aback by this unexpected revelation, her expression one of sheer shock. What? In a relationship? Wasn't Gu Yanqi pursuing you? How could this happen? After the series of events over the past 2 days, Wen Qingyao had learned to maintain her composure, showing no signs of disturbance. Yes, he has changed his mind. We were never together, which is quite normal, isn't it? Gu Yanqi had always been free-spirited and unwilling to be bound by any constraints. Wen Qingyao had not anticipated that his approach to relationships would be the same, fickle and capricious. She had mistakenly believed he would be steadfast, but ultimately, she found herself ensnared by her own heartfelt sincerity. However, that insignificant sentiment faded upon witnessing the intimate and ambiguous images of him with Lin Wantong. She was simply relieved that she had not accepted his pursuit. After some time, Tang Linlin finally processed the shocking reality of Gu Yanqi's infidelity. Just as she was about to speak, she noticed Gu Yanqi and Lin Wantong walking towards them, choosing a table closest to Wen Qingyao. Although she was aware of their presence, Wen Qingyao chose to ignore them, continuing to savor her delicious wontons. She wondered where this wonton vendor was from. As their flavor was exceptional, perhaps she would ask the owner for the recipe to share with her own cook at home. Tang Linlin wore an expression of hesitation, observing Wen Qingyao's tranquility, which eased her own frustrations somewhat. Gu Yanqi had intentionally chosen to sit there with Lin Wantong. The photographs were indeed genuine, and he had permitted Lin Wantong to share them. He merely wanted to see if Wen Qingyao would remain indifferent and unperturbed. Other women clamored for his attention. Yet after 3 years of pursuit, Wen Qingyao had been elusive, insisting on waiting until after graduation to engage further, refusing even to hold hands. Watching her now, seemingly unaffected as she leisurely enjoyed her wontons, ignited a surge of anger within Gu Yanqi. He chuckled coldly and deliberately remarked to Wen Qingyao, Qingyao, I've entered a relationship. I just got engaged to Wantong. Don't you have any blessings to offer? After speaking, he leaned in and planted a kiss on Lin Wantong's cheek, causing her to shyly nestle against him, playfully swatting at him. Witnessing the affectionate display between Gu Yanqi and Lin Wantong made Tang Linlin feel as if she might vomit her recently consumed meal. She set down her chopsticks and quietly observed Yao Yao as she savored her wontons. Wen Qingyao calmly raised her eyes and wiped her mouth. Her distant gaze swept over Gu Yanqi and Lin Wantong, and then, with what she deemed the most faultless smile, she uttered, Congratulations, I wish you happiness. Her tone was utterly indifferent, devoid of any concern. Gu Yanqi noted the absence of any emotion on Wen Qingyao's face, no anger, jealousy, or sadness. Her expression remained as cold and aloof as ever. It felt as though he had struck cotton with his fist. His brow furrowed, and within him brewed an indescribable agitation and helplessness. After much restraint, he released Lin Wantong from his embrace, pushing her aside with an action devoid of tenderness. He approached Wen Qingyao, seized her wrist, and forcefully pulled her up, disregarding the gazes and discussions of onlookers as he ushered her out of the restaurant. Wen Qingyao felt a sharp pain in her wrist, unable to suppress a cry of protest. Gu Yanqi, what are you doing? Voices echoed behind her. Yao Yao. Gu Yanqi. The restaurant erupted in a flurry of confusion, with everyone wearing expressions of bewilderment, unable to comprehend the entangled relationships among the three. Tang Linlin stared in disbelief as Gu Yanqi nearly violently yanked Wen Qingyao from her seat and dragged her out. The entire episode transpiring too swiftly for her to react. Beside her, Lin Wantong's complexion shifted from pale to flushed, the earlier shyness and pride evaporating, leaving only embarrassment and a subtle trace of resentment. What on earth was happening? Regaining her composure, Tang Linlin, in anger, stamped her foot. Neglecting her unfinished meal and the curious glances surrounding her, grabbed her bag and dashed outside. Yet, by the time she reached the restaurant entrance, both figures had already vanished from sight. Anxiously, she dialed Wen Qingyao's phone, which rang endlessly without answer. Her heart raced with unease. Torn between worry for Wen Qingyao's well-being and frustration at Gu Yanqi's capricious and unpredictable behavior. How could he, after having changed his heart first and parading around with a new love, now come to vent his anger at Yao Yao? What right did he have? As she paced in distress, she muttered her grievances. Gu Yanqi pulled Wen Qingyao into a secluded corner, releasing her wrist with an expression of fury. He questioned her, his tone sharp. Wen Qingyao, don't you have a heart? Have you not seen that I've pursued you for so long? Wen Qingyao gently rubbed her reddened wrist, stinging with pain, her brow furrowing. Memories of her survival from a tragic car accident at the age of 7 flooded back, where she lost her parents but awoke to find Gu Yanqi's beaming smile, gently calling her, Sister, does it hurt? She had naturally believed he had saved her and took care of her in the hospital for days. With that gratitude, she had always regarded him as family. maintaining contact even after moving to the He household. On her 18th birthday, when Gu Yanqi suddenly confessed his feelings, she was taken aback. Unsure of how to navigate this relationship, she began to confront her feelings for him. Perhaps the fervor and sincerity of youthful affection, combined with his relentless pursuit, made it impossible for her to remain indifferent. Yet, she felt they were too young, their minds not yet mature enough. And they agreed to be together after graduating from university if they both still desired it. Gu Yanqi had been overjoyed, readily agreeing. However, at some point, the essence of their youthful affection transformed unnoticed. Gu Yanqi began to accept advances from other girls, surrounded by incessant gossip and rumors. He managed to pursue her while secretly flirting with others. Now, he no longer concealed his intentions, disregarding their past and the promises made, brazenly parading his girlfriend. Clad in casual attire, a sporty jacket and wide-legged pants, with unbranded sneakers, he looked familiar, yet she could not fathom how their relationship had deteriorated so drastically. Should she blame her emotional oblivion, the impracticality of their agreement, or Gu Yanqi's inability to endure solitude? Chapter 10. He Jin-nan arrived, just as when Qing Yao lingered in a state between wakefulness and slumber. Observing his somewhat distorted features, the warmth and brightness of his youth seemed a distant memory, rendering him almost unrecognizable. Wen Qing Yao suppressed her inner anguish, offering a simple apology. "I'm sorry. It was my fault. You no longer need to pursue me. I wish you happiness." As she turned to leave, Gu Yanqi reached out, but failed to stop her in time. Staring at her slender, yet upright figure as she walked away, he felt a profound sense of confusion, questioning where he had gone wrong. With a voice laden with agitation and urgency, he called after her, "Wen Qing Yao, I'm getting married soon. Don't you care at all?" The chill in Wen Qing Yao's heart deepened upon hearing his words, and she clenched her palm, her steps unwavering. Witnessing her unrelenting departure, Gu Yanqi's chest heaved violently, his fury boiling over as he struck the nearby wall, leaving a shocking bloodstain. His heart was filled with an endless sense of resentment and bitterness. Yet, he understood that Wen Qing Yao would never again look at him with that radiant smile or sweetly call him Gu Yanqi. Since that night when she learned of Gu Yanqi's engagement, the emotional turmoil she had just begun to overcome was resurfacing. Wen Qing Yao pressed her palm against her heart, forcing herself to hold back tears. No more would she allow herself to feel sorrow for Gu Yanqi, nor would she ponder whether he was with another girl. This was the final time. She believed that after experiencing such heartache at noon, her afternoon practice would not go smoothly. Surprisingly, however, she found that the piece she practiced not only flowed perfectly but exceeded her previous performances. This pleased her immensely. Time would fade all wounds. Immersed in music throughout the afternoon, she had completely forgotten the rupture with Gu Yanqi during a break. She even laughed and remarked to Tang Linlin, "Linlin, I'm turning 20 this year. Isn't it about time I consider marriage?" Tang Linlin looked at her, as if she were a peculiar creature. "Yao Yao, you haven't gone mad from playing the piano, have you?" Wen Qing Yao chuckled lightly, massaging her tired fingers, and carelessly replied, "What is wrong with that?" Tang Linlin shifted her chair closer, inspecting her face closely. With a perfect oval face, delicate brows, alluring yet youthful peach blossom eyes, rosy lips, and a refined nose, it was impossible to find anyone in the capital as beautiful as her. Tang Linlin felt her forehead, puzzled. "You're not running a fever. Why would someone so beautiful be thinking about marriage? You're still so young." Not only young, but possessing an unparalleled appearance, high academic achievements, exceptional musical talent, and a warm personality, she was practically a living Barbie doll. Tang Linlin thought no one could match such an outstanding Wen Qing Yao, unless they possessed top-tier looks, capabilities, and a profound affection for her. Wen Qing Yao playfully swatted Tang Linlin's hand from her forehead, absent-mindedly agreeing, "Indeed, she is still so young. Should she agree to marry He Jin-nan? If she declines, Wen Qing Yao feels an overwhelming sense of guilt, as if she were a heartless woman who abandons others after having her fun. If she agrees, the thought of spending every day with He Jin-nan fills her with dread, leading to a profound sense of hopelessness. At 9 o'clock in the evening, after finishing her yoga session in the gym on the second floor of the He residence, Wen Qing Yao took a shower in her room, her mind swirling with thoughts as she descended the stairs. She had arranged with He Jinju to watch a newly released film in the basement cinema, and since she had no classes the next morning, staying up late tonight was permissible. Yet, she still struggled to decide whether to refuse He Jinnan's proposal. Pushing open the grand double doors, Wen Qing Yao was greeted by He Jinju, who excitedly beckoned her over. "Yao Yao, come here. Grandpa and the others have gone back to their rooms. It's just the two of us left. I've prepared so many delicious snacks." She had instructed the chef to make a large bucket of popcorn and had also asked Uncle Fu to buy 2 cups of milk tea along with various desserts. Wen Qing Yao gazed at the table laden with an assortment of snacks and exclaimed, "Juju, this is too much. Can we possibly finish it all?" He Jinju pulled Wen Qing Yao down to sit beside her, casually handing her a delicate mousse cake, patting her arm. "We can finish it. I purposely didn't eat much today. I'm saving my appetite for our movie feast. I'm so hungry I could eat a whole cow." "All right then," Wen Qing Yao replied, holding the mango mousse in her hand. She took a spoonful and savored it, nodding in appreciation. This is so delicious, Juju. Where did you buy it? He Jinju paused while adjusting the movie remote and glanced at the mango mousse in Wenqing Yao's hand, shaking her head. I don't know. I asked Uncle Fu to get it. I'll ask him later. Wenqing Yao hummed in acknowledgement, took another bite. But fearing she would gain weight from eating too much, she reluctantly set it down on the table. As the film began to play, the soothing and melodious prelude lulled Wenqing Yao into a drowsy state. After a long day of piano practice and 40 minutes of yoga, sleepiness washed over her. However, having promised He Jinju to watch the movie, she didn't want to spoil the mood as she observed her friend engrossed in the film. She curled up in the soft seat, resting her head on one hand, watching the screen while stifling yawns. It was at this moment, when Wenqing Yao was caught in a state between wakefulness and slumber, that He Jin Nan arrived. He Jinju was entirely absorbed in the movie, laughing softly at intervals, completely unaware that her older brother had silently taken a seat beside Wenqing Yao. As Wenqing Yao's head bobbed like a chick pecking at grain, she felt her arm giving way under the weight of her head when a warm, strong hand supported her. For a brief moment, her mind was clouded, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Feeling the warmth emanating from the hand that held her head, she blinked awake, turning her gaze upward to find He Jin Nan's well-defined features illuminated by the flickering light of the screen. The contours of his face appeared more pronounced in the dim light, and there was a hint of alcohol on his breath. His eyes glimmering with a degree of intoxication that she had not seen before, filled with emotions she could not decipher. They were seated closely, and He Jin Nan's gaze lingered on Wenqing Yao's slightly dazed face. Suddenly, she straightened up, creating some distance between them. After a few moments, she softly greeted him, Jin Nan Gu, you're back. Her heartstrings tightened without her realizing it. After a brief pause, He Jin Nan replied with an indifferent He took in her appearance, dressed in a skin-toned loungewear with her long hair casually tied into a low ponytail, her delicate profile glowing in the subdued light. Chapter 11. Having kissed, is there still a fear of sharing a cup of milk tea? He averted his gaze, feeling a surge of restlessness within him. He unfastened the button of his suit and loosened his neatly tied tie. Lifting the cup that resembled one filled with ice water, he took a sip and frowned. What is this? Wenqing Yao barely had time to stop him as she watched him take a large gulp from the cup that still bore her lip imprint. She felt a slight choke in her throat, her face heating up in an unseen manner, and softly reminded him, Jin Nan Gu, that's my milk tea. He Jin Nan raised an eyebrow, the tension in his brow relaxing to a smooth calm, his expression unperturbed. Quite good. He took another sip under Wenqing Yao's astonished gaze, the sweet and rich taste swirling in his mouth, before leisurely offering the cup back to her. What are you staring at? Do you want some? Here. He Jin Nan extended his long fingers, offering her the half-full cup of milk tea. The movie played on, accompanied by a cacophony of sounds from the screen. Wenqing Yao felt her heart racing in sync with the chaotic sounds emanating from the film. Observing He Jin Nan in his relaxed demeanor, she noticed that 2 buttons of his shirt collar had come undone, revealing a glimpse of his firm chest. His sleeves rolled up, showcasing his muscular arms that shone with a coral-like glow. In the midst of his usual calm and mature demeanor, there was a hint of charming intoxication. She composed herself and diverted her gaze, speaking with an air of casual indifference. I'm not thirsty. You can continue drinking. Did he not understand the principle of modesty between men and women? He had already taken a sip, so how could she drink from it? Seeing her remain fixated on the movie screen, He Jin Nan noted the rigidity of her posture, betraying her inner turmoil. He smiled faintly, not pressing her further, and slowly placed the milk tea on the table. Leaning slightly closer, he draped his long arm casually over the back of her seat, creating an illusion that she was nestled within his embrace. Wenqing Yao, though her gaze remained on the screen, was acutely aware of the imposing presence beside her. The refreshing scent of sandalwood mixed with a hint of alcohol enveloped her senses, stirring her already dulled nerves. She could feel the warmth radiating from his body, and her heart raced like thunder. After struggling internally, she finally turned to the man beside her and said, Jin Nan Gu, could you scoot over a bit? It's a little warm here. In truth, it wasn't overly warm. It was merely an excuse she concocted. He Jin Nan shifted his gaze from the screen to her face. Wenqing Yao felt a wave of discomfort wash over her, her breath catching momentarily. When He Jin Nan finally moved, she felt a brief sense of relief, only to be surprised again as he did not shift away but leaned forward to grab the air conditioning remote on the table, lowering the temperature by 2 degrees. The air conditioning emitted a couple of beeps. He Jin Nan regarded her with utmost seriousness. Is this temperature acceptable? Wenqing Yao noticed that He Jinju had sensed the commotion caused by the air conditioning. Still lost in the world of the film, she turned her gaze in their direction and was taken aback to see her brother seated beside Yao Yao. Big brother, when did you arrive? Her mind had yet to wrap around the situation. When did you become so close with Yao Yao? Wenqing Yao felt an inexplicable sense of guilt, her heartbeat unconsciously quickening. He Jin Nan did not spare a glance at He Jinju. No talking during the movie. He Jinju, taken aback, simply responded with a soft "oh" and turned back to the captivating film. With no alternative, and concerned about disturbing He Jinju further, Wen Qingyao settled into her seat beside He Jin Nan to watch the movie. She held a bucket of popcorn, absent-mindedly eating one kernel after another, failing to savor any flavor. The subtitles and characters on the screen entered her mind only to exit without leaving a trace. Just as she tried to ignore the presence beside her and immerse herself in the film, a low voice broke the silence. Is the popcorn tasty? Wen Qingyao's fingers paused, and she turned to look at He Jin Nan, realizing how close they were now, merely a few centimeters apart, causing her breath to feel less than free. She nodded lightly, maintaining her composure as she replied, delicious, unable to withstand his focused gaze. Wen Qingyao calmly turned away and continued to eat the popcorn. He Jin Nan observed her delicate, fair fingers as they picked up a kernel and brought it to her lips. Leaning closer to her ear and sensing her growing awkwardness, he exhaled warm breath, having kissed. Are you still afraid of sharing a cup of milk tea? Wen Qingyao momentarily lost her train of thought, and as she processed his words, her mind involuntarily recalled the heat of that night. He Jin Nan noted her ears turning a vivid shade of red, particularly at the base, as though they might bleed, and could not resist playfully nudging them with his finger. Wen Qingyao, startled like a frightened rabbit, quickly recoiled, abandoning the popcorn on the table, and abruptly stood up. He Jinju, startled by the commotion, looked up at Wen Qingyao's unusually pallid complexion and asked, "What's wrong, Yao Yao?" Wen Qingyao shot a furious glance at the culprit, who remained unfazed, and while she dared not glare at He Jin Nan, she could at least avoid him. Attempting to cover her embarrassment, she replied to He Jinju, "It's nothing. I'm just going to the restroom. You carry on." He Jinju nodded, taking another sip of milk tea while chewing the delicious pearls. "Oh, then be quick." Wen Qingyao did not glance back at He Jin Nan, sidestepping his long, straight legs and hastily exiting. He Jin Nan watched her flustered retreat, his eyes dark as a bottomless abyss, tapping his finger against his thigh. Moments later, he rose deliberately, leaving behind a casual remark before departing. He Jinju, utterly perplexed, watched the two leave in succession, shaking her head. Was the movie not enjoyable? In the innermost bedroom on the third floor, Wen Qingyao splashed her heated face with cool water, stopping only when the warmth faded entirely. The film was no longer an option. Remaining with He Jin Nan would likely lead to an explosion of emotions. Gazing at her reflection in the mirror, she could almost hear that magnetic, steady voice lingering in her ears. Taking a deep breath, Wen Qingyao felt as though she still bore the unique scent of He Jin Nan, as if he were still beside her. Her heart raced once more, and she patted her face before fetching a fresh set of pajamas from the wardrobe. Shortly thereafter, she returned to the bathroom to shower. Chapter 12. Sweeter than her meanwhile. He Jin Nan, draping his coat over his elbow, leisurely made his way to his bedroom, tugging at his loosened tie. He paused momentarily before striding towards the hallway. Stopping outside Wen Qingyao's room, his tall figure leaned against the wall, one leg casually propped up, his head tilted slightly against the wall. With his coat draped over one arm and the loosened tie in the other, his deep gaze rested upon the closed door, as though he were attempting to peer through the heavy barrier into the heart of the girl he yearned for, yet dared not approach. His thoughts were tranquil, yet inscrutable. After a moment, a somewhat muffled voice echoed from the stairwell, Jin Nan. He Jin Nan furrowed his brow slightly, glancing sideways at He Tsung Kun, who was observing him from a distance. He rose slowly and walked over, greeting, "Father." His tone was steady, devoid of any hint of the secret thoughts he wished to conceal. The resemblance between father and son was striking. Both were tall. Yet He Tsung Kun exuded the seasoned air of a shrewd businessman shaped by years of experience. He Jin Nan, however, possessed an understated steadiness, lacking the overt sharpness often associated with capitalists. He Tsung Kun stood with his hands clasped behind his back, surveying his son with a discerning gaze. From a young age, He Jin Nan had been more mature than his peers, consistently accomplishing tasks according to his meticulous standards, never falling into arrogance or complacency. He consistently ranked at the top of his class, and after graduation, he dutifully followed the expectations of his elders, starting at the grassroots level within the family corporation. Gradually, he ascended to the position of CEO of He Corporation, which now commanded a market valuation in the trillions. Every investment project he undertook was a resounding success, steering the company to its current monopolistic status, surpassing even its peak during his father's tenure. Perhaps due to his trust in He Jin Nan, He Tsung Kun seldom inquired into his son's private life, failing to notice when his son had developed feelings for Yao Yao. He Tsung Kun gestured upstairs. "Go change your clothes to rid yourself of the alcohol scent. Your grandfather and I are waiting for you in the study." He Jin Nan nodded, not questioning their purpose, and turned to enter his bedroom. In the study on the fourth floor of the He residence, the elder Mr. He stood behind a deep brown, intricately carved wooden desk. A large sheet of rice paper spread before him. Holding a somewhat aged brush, he dipped it into the black ink on the inkstone. Glancing at his grandson, who was seated and sipping tea, he wrote a character on the paper, his voice deep and resonant. "Speak. When did you come to like Yao Yao?" He Jin Nan, now clad in gray loungewear, his damp hair lazily falling across his forehead, appeared less aloof than usual, exuding a touch of warmth. The tea was exquisite Ming Qianlongjing. Its leaves of vibrant green, glossy and uniform, offering a sweet, smooth flavor upon the palate. He Jin Nan leisurely lifted the porcelain cup to his lips, savoring the taste that reminded him of the sweetness he had experienced that night, yet it still fell short. It could not compare to her soft and sweet essence. His fingers traced the teacup as he replied with measured calmness, "When I was 20. As soon as the words left his lips, an ashtray, long used by the elder, came hurtling through the air, grazing his forehead before clattering to the floor. Father. You. He Tsung-kun had yet to recover from the revelation that his son had harbored feelings for Yao Yao for a decade when he witnessed the elder's unceremonious toss of the ashtray. He Jin Nan calmly set down his cup of tea, brushing his forehead, leaving a vivid red mark on his palm. He raised his gaze to meet the elder's furious eyes, his expression remaining composed as always. The elder Mr. He tossed aside the brush he had been using. The freshly written characters instantly smeared by ink, leaving behind an unsightly mark. Pointing at He Jin Nan, he paced back and forth, too enraged to articulate his thoughts. In contrast, He Jin Nan remained unflustered, seated serenely, attempting to soothe the elder. "Grandfather, do not be angry. Excessive anger will keep you awake at night." He remained silent until he spoke, igniting a spark that rapidly escalated into flames. Old Master He, with his hands on his hips, exclaimed, "You still know not to provoke my anger? You beast! When Yao Yao was but a child, you harbored such sordid thoughts." He Jin Nan allowed the elder to vent his frustration, having anticipated this day long ago. He Tsung-kun hurriedly stepped forward, patting Old Master He's chest to soothe him. "Father, calm down. Did you not once wish for Yao Yao and Jin Nan to become a couple? This is fortuitous, as Jin Nan has intentions as well." Old Master He brusquely shrugged off He Tsung-kun's hand, retorting, "I did say they should be together, but that was to wait until Yao Yao graduated. She was so young then. How could he entertain such vile thoughts so early? Just look at how much older he is than her. What else could he be but a beast?" He Jin Nan lowered his eyelashes, his noble composure intact even in this chastised state. He did not refute the elder. He acknowledged his own corrupt thoughts, admitting to the dark stirrings of his heart. He allowed the roots of his emotions to take hold in the most hidden corners of his heart, where the seed of infatuation had long since blossomed into a towering tree. The first time he laid eyes on her, she was enduring an unbearable calamity in life. That day, Uncle Fu had gone to the airport to pick him up. He had been studying abroad and returned home only once every 6 months. On the way back to the He residence, they passed an intersection where a tragic car accident had occurred. He casually glanced at the driver. Recognizing it to be Uncle Wan, a frequent visitor to the He household, alongside his wife, Aunt Wan. In a state of urgency, he contacted an ambulance. And as they lifted the injured onto stretchers, he noticed a fragile young girl in the shattered back seat. He had rarely returned home during his studies abroad and had never met Uncle Wen's child. While in the hospital's ICU fighting for life, the Wen family had not yet arrived, and the He family was unable to return from abroad. He had no choice but to sign the liability statement. Ultimately, Uncle Wen and Aunt Wen could not be saved, leaving only the girl, who suffered a mild concussion, Wenqing Yao, their only daughter. In haste, he witnessed Wenqing Yao being transferred from the ICU to a regular ward, departing only after the rest of the Wen family arrived. Little did he know that days later, he would encounter Wenqing Yao at the He residence, clad in a beautiful dress, appearing obedient and delicate. It was later revealed that the rest of the Wen relatives were unwilling to care for her, and since the He family had a close relationship with the Wens, He Tsung-kun decisively brought Wenqing Yao into the He household. In the subsequent years, he returned to the United States for further studies and frequently engaged with He Corporation's affairs, rarely returning home and having almost no interaction with Wenqing Yao. Though they lived under the same roof, they were as strangers. Until that one time, at the age of 20, when he first found himself in such close proximity to a girl, her porcelain-like face touching his hand, so pitiable and soft. Chapter 13. Are you not afraid she will regret marrying you? Old Master He's emotions had settled somewhat, allowing him to ask with a semblance of calm. What stage have you and Yao Yao reached? It was unusual for Old Master He to inquire about such matters, but he regarded Yao Yao as a beloved granddaughter, fearing that his grandson, whose thoughts were so profound, might deceive the young girl. The already unscrupulous He Jin Nan regarded the elderly man with white hair and, ignoring He Tsung-kun's implicit hints from behind, rose with unhurried composure, his expression as tranquil as still water. No need to guess. We have done everything. Old Master He leaned back in exasperation, raising his cane to strike He Jin Nan's back with considerable force. The blow was devoid of any leniency, and He Tsung-kun watched with trepidation, unable to defend his son, for indeed, He Jin Nan was a beast. If Yao Yao's parents were still alive and heard this, they would likely sever all ties with the He family. He Jin Nan, clad only in a thin loungewear, felt the sharp sting on his back, yet did not flinch. Rest assured, I will marry her and take responsibility. He Jin Nan had always been disciplined, regarded as the most exceptional junior among his peers by the elders, with the sole transgression being his early marriage to Wenqing Yao. Anger aside, Old Master He, after all, felt pity for his grandson. Seeing him endure the scolding without protest, and his current earnest demeanor alleviated some of the elder's ire. After a lengthy silence, he sighed and solemnly asked, Yao Yao is still young. Are you not afraid she may regret marrying you? She is yet to graduate and might encounter someone more suitable for her. Will you not regret your decision today? He Jin Nan paused momentarily, having anticipated all possible inquiries since entering the study, which allowed him to respond with ease. Yet, in that fleeting moment, his heart began to waver, and a hint of panic arose within him. Would she regret it? Indeed, she was still young, in her early 20s. What if she were to meet someone more fitting in the future? He Jin Nan absent-mindedly fiddled with the coral beads on his wrist, his gaze lowered, concealing the sudden shadow that darkened his eyes, akin to the unfathomable depths of the ocean at night, tumultuous waves surging within. As the coral beads approached the brink of snapping, he abruptly released them, producing a resounding thud as they rebounded against his wrist. He raised his eyes, fixing his gaze on Hitsong Kun and Old Master He, his expression grave. I have never contemplated regret regarding my marriage to her. Since we have engaged in relations, I shall take responsibility. In 2 years, I will let her go. He Jin Nan remained silent for a long while before adding, if she encounters someone she truly loves, a partner suited for her, I will let her go. Wen Xingyao had initially intended to visit the piano room on the 4th floor to solidify the rhythms of the piece she had learned that day. The piano room was a precious gift from her mother, personally decorated by her, given to her on the occasion of her high school graduation. Conveniently located next to her grandfather's study, the He Villa spans 6 stories, each corridor adorned with soft, comfortable carpets that muffled footsteps, rendering them inaudible. As she passed her grandfather's study, she noticed the door was not fully closed, leaving a slight crack. Within, some indistinct voices of conversation floated out. Wen Xingyao had intended to walk past, not out of fear of overhearing something inappropriate, but because her nature had always been quiet and reserved. However, upon hearing that familiar, steady voice, she abruptly halted, unable to move a step further. She did not catch the entirety of He Jin Nan's earlier words, but when marriage was mentioned, her ears instinctively perked up. It was only when she distinctly heard him declare, we have engaged in relations. I will take responsibility. In 2 years, I will let her go, that her heart leapt in sudden disarray, a surge of inexplicable emotions flooding her being. He had spoken of marriage to her grandfather. Would they consent? In 2 years, would they indeed part ways? Wen Xingyao lowered her eyelashes. Realizing she ought not to heed the words behind her, she covered her ears and swiftly retreated, running back to her room. Much later, when Wen Xingyao reminisced about that day outside the study, she would regret not having continued to listen to the incomplete words of He Jinan. The weight of his unfinished sentence lingered in her heart, preventing her from practicing the piano piece she had intended for the day. With nothing else to occupy her, she decided to apply a facial mask and lay on her bed, idly scrolling through her phone. After watching videos for a while and checking for any recent gossip from the entertainment industry, she glanced at the time. It was only 10:30 in the evening. There was still ample time before her bedtime, and her earlier fatigue had vanished, completely absent now as she had watched the film. She surmised that He Jinju's movie was still underway. Unconsciously, she had consumed nearly half a bucket of popcorn while watching, and now feeling somewhat parched. When Xingyao removed the mask, washed her face, and resolved to head downstairs for a glass of water. As she walked through the hallway and past He Jinan's room, she noticed the door ajar, with soft light spilling out. She averted her gaze and descended the stairs, retrieving a clean glass from the island counter. She poured water from the kettle, her thoughts preoccupied with the idea of marrying He Jinan. Just then, a steady voice broke her reverie. What are you daydreaming about? When Xingyao snapped back to reality, noticing the water in her cup was nearly overflowing, and quickly halted her pouring. Lifting her gaze, she squinted into the dim light, struggling to discern the man's face, only able to make out a vague silhouette. Recognizing that familiar voice, she instinctively called out, Jinan go? As footsteps approached, she saw He Jinan clad in a deep gray robe, striding over with his tall, long legs, a bottle of wine in hand, evidently just emerged from the cellar. His expression remained resolute and indifferent, yet the fresh wound on his forehead was alarming. When Xingyao felt a jolt, the man, who had appeared flawless just moments ago while watching the film, now bore an injury. Nevertheless, his formidable aura of silent authority remained undiminished. She quickly lowered her gaze, unwilling to stare further, as she could hardly fathom who could inflict such a mark on the eldest grandson of the He family, other than the old master himself. It was inconceivable that He Baba and He Mama, with their gentle natures, would ever harm their own son. Was this injury a result of the marriage discussions? Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed He Jinan approaching leisurely, causing her heart to race involuntarily, as if the very air had thinned. She raised the water cup to feign drinking, attempting to mask the turmoil within her. Chapter 14. A tumultuous kiss. He Jinan set the bottle of red wine down on the island counter with a crisp sound. Glancing at Wen Xingyao, who was still drinking water, and casually inquired, "Why are you still awake at this hour?" His tone was steady, devoid of any inflection. In the stillness of the night, the vast living room was unnervingly quiet. all lights extinguished except for a soft pendant lamp casting a gentle glow on the island. Wen Qingyao lifted her eyelashes slightly, observing He Jinan as he deftly uncorked the wine bottle. His fingers were long and pale, and as he exerted force, the prominent veins on the back of his hand became apparent, while his brow deepened in the muted light. Setting aside all else, He Jinan possessed a visage capable of captivating any woman. Even the simplest of his actions was aesthetically pleasing. Wen Qingyao placed her cup down, diverting her gaze. "I'm a bit thirsty. I'll head to bed now." He Jinan did not reply, instead retrieving a wine glass and filling it with the deep crimson liquid, which completely saturated the cup. Wen Qingyao's eyes widened in astonishment. Was he truly going to drink so much at this late hour? A palpable tension hung in the air. And after a moment's inner conflict, she voiced her concern. "Brother, please drink less. Excessive alcohol is detrimental to your health. I'm going upstairs now." As her words fell, Wen Qingyao maneuvered around He Jinan's tall figure, intending to leave. At that moment, a warm hand grasped her wrist. Her heart skipped a beat as she looked down at the bony hand encircling her wrist, then raised her gaze. "Go." He Jinan had set the wine glass down at some point, now gazing intently at her, his features more pronounced, his eyes shrouded in inscrutable emotions. As if veiled in a dark ink, she heard him ask, "Have you considered the matter of marriage?" His tone was deliberate, laced with a hint of huskiness. When Qingyao's breath quickened, all her anxieties from that day converged into a decisive moment, hesitance flickering in her eyes. Just as that moment of uncertainty lingered, He Jinan released her hand, nodding slightly, his voice steady. "I understand. It's late. You should rest." With that, he turned his gaze away, taking a sip from the glass of red wine, his Adam's apple bobbing. Wen Qingyao furrowed her brow, observing his composed and serene figure. What did he comprehend? The air felt stifling. She bit her lip, murmured a good night, and ascended the stairs. At midnight, Wen Qingyao lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to find sleep as her thoughts were a tangled mess. After the death of her biological parents, the stock price of the Wen family's enterprise plummeted, teetering on the brink of collapse. It was He Baba who took over, valiantly preserving the company's operations. However, the shares remained in her name, with He Baba merely managing them temporarily. Eventually, when He Jinan adeptly navigated the business world, he assumed control of the Wen family's affairs from He Baba. For the past few years, he had managed both the extensive He Family Corporation and the myriad matters of the Wen family enterprise, bearing the burdens of two colossal companies. The weight of responsibility on his shoulders was immense. She recalled a time when He Jinan had indulged in excessive drinking during a business engagement, coupled with late nights tending to company affairs, resulting in a lengthy hospital stay. Yet, he had never spoken of such struggles to his family, shouldering it all alone. She only learned of this when Zhu inadvertently let it slip. Setting aside everything else, Wen Qingyao felt she could never repay the kindness each member of the He family had shown her, especially He Jinan. Thus, every time she encountered him, she would avert her gaze, feeling a mix of fear and overwhelming guilt. His generosity was too great, and she was at a loss as to how to return it. With the bedside lamp casting a soft glow, the stillness of the night amplified the tenderest of emotions within her. Wen Qingyao lay awake, gazing at the intricately carved patterns on the ceiling, her thoughts drifting to He Jinan's alarming injury. Biting her lip, she sat up, threw off the covers, and made her way to the drawer beside her bed, retrieving a cotton swab and ointment from the medical kit. Resolute, she approached the door and opened it, heading towards He Jinan's bedroom. The hallway was equipped with automatic sensor lights, casting a soft, warm glow upon the girl clad in her pajamas. Wen Qingyao tiptoed to He Jinan's bedroom door, her inner conflict raging for quite some time. Her small hand touched the smart sensor panel. The door was not locked, and upon her fingertip's touch, it swung open automatically. Gently, she pushed the door ajar, finding the bedroom shrouded in darkness, softly whispering, "Jinan Go, are you asleep?" No response came. He was likely already in slumber. Wen Qingyao felt an inexplicable sense of relief in her heart. It was indeed quite satisfactory to apply medicine for him in secret. She gently pushed the door open and crept inside. The room was shrouded in darkness, rendering her unable to discern anything initially, and she could only navigate by recalling her memories from that morning when she had awakened in his bedroom. After a moment, her eyes adjusted, and she could barely make out the position of the large bed, where a tall figure lay. Her heart raced wildly. She had never engaged in such a guilty act before, and she gripped the cotton swab tightly. She took careful steps towards the bedside and encountered an obstruction beneath her feet. Glancing down, she realized it was He Jinan's slippers. She breathed softly, fearful that any misstep might awaken He Jinan. The girl leaned down slowly, getting close enough to discern the contours of the man's features. She applied the ointment onto the cotton swab, locating the wound and gently smoothing it over. Just as she thought she had finished, she lifted the swab. And to her astonishment, a scorching, powerful hand suddenly seized her delicate wrist, pulling her forcefully into his embrace and wrapping around her slender waist. In a dizzying swirl, Wen Qingyao found herself firmly pinned beneath him. Startled, she stared wide-eyed, her hands pressed against He Jinan's warm, solid chest, and as she looked up, His sharply defined features loomed above her. She had not anticipated that He Jinan was awake. His potent aura, laced with the scent of alcohol, enveloped her senses. Jinan Gu. Before she could finish her explanation, He Jinan's unexpected kiss landed on her lips. In the dim light of the room, the temperature became palpably charged with an alluring tension. Wen Qingyao's mind went blank, overwhelmed by the intoxicating scent of alcohol and his breath, which lingered in her nostrils. After a long moment, she pushed against He Jinan's chest with all her might, the heat beneath her palms astonishingly high, causing her to clench her hands involuntarily. Sensing her resistance, He Jinan held her wrists firmly above her head. Wen Qingyao's body instinctively arched upward, unwittingly adopting a posture that invited him closer. Jinan Gu. No. In Chapter 15, did she not realize the potential consequences of visiting a man's room in the dead of night? He Jinan seized the opportunity, kissing her fervently with increasing intensity. The disparity in their strength was overwhelming. He Jinan's entire being pressed down upon her, as immovable as a mountain. Wen Qingyao's body began to tremble uncontrollably, a powerful current surging up her spine, sending shockwaves to her brain. After what felt like an eternity, He Jinan finally released her, planting a light peck on her lips, his forehead resting against hers. His voice husky and breathless. Do you not know what the consequences are of coming to a man's room at midnight? Wen Qingyao was bewildered and disoriented from the kiss, the heat radiating from him, making her feel even more dizzy. She struggled to suppress her quivering voice. I was just concerned about your injury and wanted to apply medicine. He Jinan's strong arms wrapped around her waist, emanating an unbearable allure. The dimness obscured her view of his dark, brooding eyes, and she could only gauge his state by the rapid, steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Even without clarity, the mature, seductive aura he exuded was enough to make Wen Qingyao's cheeks flush with embarrassment. He Jinan seemed to chuckle softly, then pressed his lips gently against her smooth, tender face, his lips too warm for her to endure, causing her to turn away. Yet, he firmly grasped her chin. Jinan Gu, you're drunk. I am Wen Qingyao. He Jinan's intoxicated gaze roamed over her face, the alcohol dulling his senses, were it not for the pain in his forehead. He might have thought this was yet another dream. He couldn't resist kissing her cheek again, his voice slurred with drunkenness. Wen Qingyao, I may be drunk, but I am not so inebriated as to fail to recognize the person lying beneath me. Wen Qingyao gazed at his blurred features, her heart pounding fiercely. Thankfully, the darkness concealed her bashful, flushed face. She hastily changed the subject. I've finished applying the medicine. I need to go back to sleep. Can you let me go now? He Jinan did not loosen his grip. Instead, he tightened it further, leaning closer to her. Why did you apply the medicine? Are you concerned about me? Wen Qingyao's heart raced erratically, and with a steely resolve, she replied, You are my brother. It is only natural for me to care for you when you are injured. In the gloom, He Jinan's lips curved into a faint smile as he gently stroked her delicate wrist with his thumb. Is this concern only possible because you stealthily crept into my room while I was asleep? Wen Qingyao. What kind of sister expresses such concern for her brother in this manner? Wen Qingyao felt a pang of guilt at his words, her gaze evasive, unaware that his hand had slipped under her clothing while she was distracted. You're talking nonsense. I am merely showing normal concern for you. Don't make it sound so improper. He Jinan lightly brushed her lips with his, propping himself on his elbow to caress her face, savoring the softness beneath his palm. His tone was calm yet grave. Wen Qingyao, I will ask you one last time, will you marry me? Wen Qingyao, flustered and indignant, covered her lips with the back of her hand, fearing He Jinan might unexpectedly kiss her again. In truth, she had already made her decision upon hearing He Jinan's words in the study that evening. The kindness he had shown her throughout her life could never be repaid, and her innocence had been taken from her. However, spending 2 years in marriage, after which they would divorce, held no significance for her. She would treat He Jinan with utmost care during those 2 years, following his every request as a way to repay his kindness. Moreover, having a husband like He Jinan, steady in temperament, handsome, and wealthy, was hardly a loss. Although she did not understand why He Jinan was so insistent on marrying her. Was it merely because she had given him her first time? Wen Qingyao, shedding her hesitance, moved her wrist slightly. He Jinan noticed and released his hold on her. But she took his hand in hers, her expression earnest. All right, I will marry you. He Jinan's pupils widened in surprise, his brow furrowing slightly. His voice deeper than ever. Are you truly willing? Wen Qingyao sighed internally. Fearing he might doubt her sincerity, she encircled his neck with her arms, leaning close to his ear to whisper, He Jinan, I truly wish to marry you. At her words, she felt the force around her waist tighten as if he intended to meld her into his being. Wen Qingyao frowned slightly. He Jinan's heated embrace and powerful grip gave her the illusion that he loved her to the very marrow of his bones. Yet, how could that be? He Jinan's affections were for Cui Enyu. He had pursued her for years and even traveled to America for her, as was well known. Wen Qingyao's thoughts began to wander. Perhaps that night had ignited a desire in He Jinan for her body, compelling him to hastily marry her? He Jinan remained oblivious to the girl in his arms, consumed by thoughts of how he longed to hold her tightly, For how could nearly a decade of love be satisfied with just one embrace? When Qingyao felt He Jin and bury his face in her neck, a side of him she had never witnessed before. She merely assumed he was intoxicated. The typically reserved and composed man now held her quietly in his embrace, the short hair at the nape of his neck brushing against her soft palm. When Qingyao found herself at a loss to articulate the emotions swirling within her, He Jinan's body temperature was exceedingly high, and he held her too tightly, prompting her to emit a soft, involuntary sound. Jinanji, you are holding me too tightly. I feel quite hot. Upon hearing this, He Jinan casually picked up the remote control and lowered the air conditioning temperature by 2 degrees, yet his grip on her remained unchanged. He pressed a gentle kiss on her cheek and spoke in a steady tone tinged with slight inebriation. All right, sleep now. When Qingyao momentarily struggled, protesting, I cannot sleep here. I want to return to my own room. With his eyes closed, He Jinan slightly turned his head and nibbled at her ear, his raspy voice laced with an implicit threat. Behave, sleep here. If you move again, I cannot guarantee what I might do. When Qingyao endeavored to evade his breath, daring not to stir further, remaining quietly nestled in his embrace, the atmosphere abruptly fell silent, allowing her to hear only the rhythmic cadence of their intertwined breaths. She had thought it impossible to fall asleep while being held by a man, yet the steady and tranquil sound of He Jinan's breathing lulled her into slumber. After a span of half an hour, when Qingyao succumbed to her fatigue and drifted into a deep sleep, listening to the gentle and obedient rhythm of her breathing, He Jinan slowly opened his eyes, his gaze clear and soft, devoid of any trace of intoxication. The girl in his arms was entirely soft, warm, and undeniably real. He Jinan instinctively tightened his embrace, his lips brushing against hers, lingering for an extended moment before releasing her. The 2-year agreement he mentioned to the elder was merely a pretext. Having already won her over, there was no way he would let her go. Chapter 16, Elder Brother. Look at what you have done to Yao Yao. Zhu, please go upstairs and call your brother and Yao Yao down for breakfast. Doesn't Yao Yao have class this morning? And your brother, why is he still in bed when he usually rises around 6? Mama He instructed the maid while setting the breakfast table, addressing a drowsy He Jinju. Last night, He Jinju had stayed up late watching a movie, not falling asleep until nearly midnight. She had class during the second period today and was reluctantly dragging her weary body to breakfast. Stifling a yawn, she lazily replied, Yao Yao doesn't have class this morning. There's no need to call her. Mama He approached and patted her back, a look of reproach on her face. Even if there's no class, she still needs to eat breakfast. And your brother needs to go to work. So hurry and call him. He Jinju pouted in dissatisfaction, responding with a half-hearted oh. She stood up and pressed the button for the 3rd floor in the elevator. Still not fully awake, she felt as if her world was unreal. Upon reaching He Jinan's bedroom on the 3rd floor, her mind was hazy, as if veiled by an ethereal mist, causing her reactions to be sluggish. After knocking twice, receiving no response, she called out, Brother? Her fingertip brushed the door lock, which emitted a faint click. Pushing the door open, her eyes barely open, she casually scanned the room. Her bleary gaze landed on the large gray bed, the neatly arranged blanket slightly elevated. It was evident that 2 people lay there, their positions intimate. Rubbing her eyes and shaking her head, He Jinju thought. Perhaps she needed to splash some water on her face to awaken fully. Turning to leave, she called out, Brother, Mother is calling you down for breakfast. As she reached the door, her steps faltered, and she suddenly turned back, letting out a piercing scream that echoed throughout the He family villa. Ah, Mama He, busy in the kitchen, paused momentarily, furrowing her brow. This child, why is she always so unpredictable? In the upstairs bedroom, a stunned He Jinju stared at the 2 people on the bed, her pupils dilating in shock. He Jinan and Wen Qingyao had both slept in late. He Jinan had only just fallen asleep as dawn broke, and now the scream jolted him awake, causing his brows to furrow in annoyance. Wen Qingyao, startled by the scream, sat up abruptly, glancing at the incredulous He Jinju nearby. She hurriedly attempted to explain. Zhu, let me explain, it's not what you think. He Jinju was momentarily dumbfounded by the shocking scene, but quickly regained her composure. Covering her mouth with one hand, she pointed at the 2 on the bed. When did you both start secretly seeing each other? Yao Yao, such a significant matter, and you never mentioned it to me. How could I have not noticed? No, is it my brother? Did he force you into this? You are too obedient to do such a thing. Wen Qingyao had no opportunity to respond, having just awoken to be caught in this predicament. No, she and He Jinan were technically engaged, so it wasn't entirely clandestine. She anxiously tried to clarify. Zhu, it's not what you think. Yao Yao, don't speak. I know. He Jinju interrupted loudly. Wen Qingyao was bewildered, wondering what she knew. He Jinju felt as though her world was collapsing. Was she truly experiencing a temporal dislocation? Her dear friend and sister had overnight transformed into her sister-in-law? Her beautiful eyes widened, her mind suddenly alert, devoid of any sleepiness. He Jinju was enraged. Hopping up and down, she shot a reproachful glance at the leisurely sitting He Jinan, her anger flaring. Elder brother, you have disappointed me greatly. It's one thing for you to be unfeeling and domineering, but now you are coercing Yao Yao into this? noticing the conspicuous hickeys on Wen Qingyao's neck. Her anger surged, nearly boiling over. Elder brother, how dare you treat Yao Yao this way? Just look at what you have done to her. Wen Qingyao was taken aback by her fierce words, glancing down at her exposed arms, which bore several ambiguous marks. Her face flushed crimson. Biting her lip and gazing at the source of these markings with a hint of shame, He Jinan furrowed his brow, still not fully awake, while the cacophony from He Jinju caused a throbbing in his temples. He Jinju longed to strike her insufferably hypocritical brother, yet dared not. Resorting instead to fierce words, elder brother, starting today, you are no longer my brother. I will go tell grandfather. I don't care about my allowance anymore. Let us see how grandfather disciplines you for treating Yao Yao like this. Wen Qingyao observed as He Jinan rubbed his aching temples, his deep black eyes glinting with a warning as they turned toward He Jinju. The latter shrank back, intimidated by his piercing gaze. Then, He Jinan spoke in a deep, impatient tone, infused with a sense of expulsion, be quiet. Leave. In her fury, He Jinju was unwilling to comply. Placing her hands on her hips and defiantly raising her chin. Why should I leave? I will speak. You return Yao Yao to me. How dare you monopolize her? You must be coercing her. Wen Qingyao. Just as Wen Qingyao was about to speak, the patience of He Jinan, nearly depleted by He Jinju, was once again tested as he solemnly warned, He Jinju, I shall reiterate, leave. Even though he had just awakened, the formidable aura and calm demeanor of He Jinan remained unyielding. He Jinju, after all, was still intimidated by her taciturn elder brother. Observing He Jinan's dwindling patience, she abruptly halted her words, shot him an angry glare, and obediently turned to exit. Before leaving, she did not forget to caution Wen Qingyao, Yao Yao. Do not be deceived by my brother's charming exterior. He is far from being a virtuous gentleman. He harbors many cunning thoughts. Wen Qingyao, once He Jinju departed, the door closed with a soft click, restoring tranquility to the bedroom. Wen Qingyao's mind buzzed incessantly, and just as she intended to throw off the covers and rise, He Jinan encircled her waist and pulled her back into his embrace, lying on his side. Startled by the sudden closeness, Wen Qingyao's mind momentarily faltered. Behind her was He Jinan's solid and warm chest, felt through the thin fabric of her nightgown. As she regained her senses, her cheeks flushed a deep crimson. She grasped his arm resting on her waist, attempting to dislodge him. Jinan, I need to get up. He Jinan tightened his grip on her delicate hand and gently caressed it, his voice still laced with drowsiness, deep and husky. It is still early. Stay with me a little longer, I am quite tired. Chapter 17 He Jinan, what are you smiling about? As he spoke, he planted a soft kiss on her shoulder, his lips lingering there. Wen Qingyao. Soon, a steady rhythm of breathing emanated from behind her, and Wen Qingyao blinked, realizing she could no longer sleep. Yet, she remained still, her gaze fixed on the sofa not far from the bed, her thoughts drifting into an unknown realm. Having only slept for half an hour, He Jinan awoke, his mind gradually clearing. He gazed at the soft and tranquil figure in his arms, and his heart melted like wax. Unable to restrain himself, he lightly pecked her cheek, sensing her rigid form, yet he paid it no mind. Observing her delicate profile, he spoke in his usual composed tone, now tinged with tenderness. Shall we go and collect our marriage certificate this morning? I noted that you have no classes on your schedule. Wen Qingyao froze for a moment, puzzled as to how he knew her class schedule. However, she quickly realized that for someone as powerful as He Jinan, acquiring such information would be effortless, especially concerning her schedule. A wave of annoyance surged within her. If he possessed such capability, could he not procure the marriage certificate without her signature? Did she even need to accompany him? After a brief silence, she exerted force to remove his hand, though her gaze remained averted. Fine, I shall wash up first. Wen Qingyao hastily straightened her somewhat disheveled clothing, disregarding He Jinan's reaction as she pulled back the covers and stood up. Just as she rose, her wrist was seized, and she frowned, lifting her gaze to He Jinan. His brow was slightly furrowed, his high cheekbones and inwardly curved eye sockets accentuating his captivating eyes, which brimmed with gentle affection. Were it not for the unyielding grip on her wrist, she might have believed him to be genuinely gentle and refined. He Jinan's brow tightened, yet his demeanor remained composed, his voice devoid of any tremor. What is it? Why are you suddenly unhappy? His presence exuded a commanding aura, even in concern, tinged with the indifference of one accustomed to authority. Wen Qingyao stared back at him, summoning the courage to meet his gaze. After a moment, she softly replied, a hint of aloofness evident in her tone, I am not unhappy. You are mistaken. With that, she shifted her gaze away from him. Release me. I need to wash up in my room. He Jinan's deep black eyes scrutinized her, noting the slight disarray of her hair upon waking, cascading like ink across her delicate back, yet it did nothing to diminish her exquisite features. However, the irritation etched upon her doll-like face, her cheeks puffed out like an indignant little penguin, was unmistakable. How could he not perceive the shift in her emotions? To him, Wen Qingyao was stunning even when angry, radiating a unique charm that warmed his heart. He Jinan's mood inexplicably brightened, a smile playing upon his lips as he effortlessly lifted Wen Qingyao onto his lap. Startled, she exclaimed, what are you doing? Quickly, She wrapped her arms around his neck, and once settled, she glared at the impeccably composed He Jin-nan. He Jin-nan, what are you smiling about? Put me down. I do not wish to be held. Wen Qingyao typically had an amiable temperament, rarely angered, often described by He Jinju as a pliable fruit, incapable of inciting any ire. Yet, in this moment, she found herself easily provoked by He Jin-nan. Her frustration bubbling to the surface, particularly as she gazed upon his infuriatingly handsome face, a sense of unexplainable vexation coursing through her. He Jin-nan held her squirming form firmly, rendering her immobile, while his other hand cradled her petite face. Feeling the softness of her skin beneath his palm, he smiled warmly. What is the matter? There should be no misunderstandings between us, you know? If you are dissatisfied after marriage, voice it promptly. If you keep it bottled up, it will only harm your own well-being. Wen Qingyao regarded his seemingly earnest expression, were it not for the wandering hand at her waist. She might have genuinely thought him a paragon of virtue. The sensations emanating from that touch ignited a current that coursed through her limbs, causing her cheeks to flush uncontrollably. While she felt an urge to bite him out of anger, her underlying fear of him made it difficult to adjust to their suddenly altered dynamic. Defiantly, she retorted, "We haven't even acquired the certificate yet. We are not husband and wife, so do not say such things. And your hand, do not touch me indiscriminately." However, after a night of change, she was oblivious to the fact that she now dared to meet his gaze directly, even using a firm tone with him, something the previous Wen Qingyao would have never dreamed of doing. He Jin-nan displayed no trace of displeasure. Instead, he appeared to bask in the warmth of their exchange, his mature demeanor exuding a certain charm that amplified his masculinity. He playfully tapped Wen Qingyao's petite nose, his hand lingering at her waist, his voice maintaining its usual calm, now laced with a hint of indulgence. "Very well, I shall refrain from moving my hand. Now, tell me why you were suddenly upset earlier. Did I do something wrong? If you do not communicate, how can I amend it? After our marriage, we cannot allow such issues to linger unaddressed. Misunderstandings can easily tarnish our bond." He Jin-nan spoke with a gravity that suggested their union was one of love and mutual respect. Yet, witnessing his sincere demeanor, Wen Qingyao, who had always found herself at a disadvantage against his formidable presence, felt it ungracious to maintain her stance of superiority. "You must not pry into my private matters without my consent. Respect my wishes." Still unaccustomed to addressing him in this manner, she found it somewhat awkward. Lowering her head as she softly added, "Never mind, these are trivial matters. Do not concern yourself with them. Consider my earlier words as unspoken." Chapter 18. She would not forgive him, yet he continued to kiss her. As his words fell, the large hand on her chin gently applied pressure, urging her to lift her gaze to meet his eyes. His eyes were sharp and profound, causing Wen Qingyao to instinctively close her eyes. Her voice rising in a flustered tone, "You asked me to speak, so do not blame me." Just as she anticipated his anger, a warm, moist sensation graced her eyelids. Her lashes fluttered uncontrollably, and then she heard He Jinnan's steady and gentle voice. "It is my fault. I apologize for not considering your feelings. Your matters are certainly not trivial." Wen Qingyao's eyelids quivered, slowly opening to meet He Jinnan's deep and tender gaze. An indescribable emotion stirred within her. He Jinnan leaned down and placed a soft kiss on her cheek, continuing to soothe her. "I am sorry. Regarding the class schedule, I overstepped by investigating without your consent. Such a thing will not happen again. I will ensure your privacy and adhere to your wishes, all right?" His tone was so gentle that Wen Qingyao found it impossible to reject his words. The air seemed to thin. Yet a part of her stubbornly resisted the urge to acquiesce too easily. She stared at He Jinnan, whose demeanor starkly contrasted with her memories of him, and remained silent. He had always regarded her with indifference, with a coldness that was now absent. He Jinnan leisurely held her hand, placing a tender kiss on her alluring lips. Yet he did not pull away, remaining close. With a serious tone, he asked, "Will you forgive me?" Wen Qingyao thought to herself, if she were to say she would not forgive him, would he continue to kiss her? Embarrassed and irritated, she pushed him away with force while he was distracted, standing up swiftly from his embrace, leaving behind a simple, "I forgive you." She hurried away. He Jinnan watched her retreating figure, a smile lingering in his eyes, his fingers tracing the warmth she had left in his palm. After freshening up, Wen Qingyao descended to the dining room, where the He family had gathered. Unlike the usual lively atmosphere, the room today was peculiarly quiet, which she had anticipated. After greeting her elders, her grandfather beckoned her to sit. "Shushu, come sit here next to your parents." Wen Qingyao responded softly. Her gaze instinctively fell on He Jinan. The man who had just been so affectionate with her now adopting an air of aloofness, cold yet commanding. He sat there with a calm demeanor, exuding a quiet authority. He Jinan's gaze met hers, unruffled, but as their eyes locked, Wen Qingyao averted her eyes first. Grandfather He had been discreetly observing the interactions between his grandson and Wen Qingyao, noticing the undercurrents of intimacy. He picked up his chopsticks and tossed them towards He Jinan. "What are you staring at Wen Qingyao for? Does her sitting here require your approval? He Jinan, I am still alive, and this house does not revolve around your commands." At over 80 years old, Grandfather He had fought in wars and wielded power in the military and political realms, earning respect and affection, yet his temper was fiery and straightforward, with no tolerance for insubordination. Seeing his once proud grandson daring to engage in such behavior under his very nose, he felt a surge of disapproval. He Jinan effortlessly caught the chopsticks thrown at him, maintaining an indifferent expression as he returned them to Grandfather He with a humble demeanor. Please calm down, grandfather. Of course, you hold authority in this family. Wenqing Yao can sit wherever she chooses. His manner remained warm and unassuming, revealing the ease of someone accustomed to high status. He understood that Grandfather He had been irritable lately and chose not to provoke him further, knowing that any distress caused could ultimately fall back on him. Grandfather He glared at him in frustration. With such humility, he found no reason to continue his tirade and could only stew in silence. Wenqing Yao obediently took her place beside her grandfather, sitting up straight and appearing dignified, clearly the model child who reassured the elders. She smiled. Grandfather, please do not be angry. Let us eat. Her father chimed in. Dad, let us eat. The food is getting cold. Only then did Grandfather He relent, adopting a more composed demeanor as he began to eat, casting a disgruntled glance at the indifferent He Jinan. After a moment, he sighed heavily and solemnly advised He Jinan. It is still Wenqing Yao who is obedient. You marrying her is the fortune you have earned over many lifetimes. After the wedding, treat her well. If she ever mistreats you, come to me. I will support you. Ultimately, he did not want to see his grandson divorced from Wenqing Yao after 2 years. He genuinely hoped for their happiness. He Jinan's deep gaze swept over Wenqing Yao, his dark pupils concealing tumultuous emotions beneath. He nodded slightly, his voice steady as always. Rest assured, I will treat her well. As Wenqing Yao paused in her spooning of porridge, she caught glimpses of the expressions around her, noticing nothing amiss. As if there were a tacit understanding regarding her relationship with He Jinan. Particularly, He Jinju, who pretended not to exist while quietly sipping her porridge, seemed to have erased the earlier surprise from their encounter, and even He Mama wore a gentle expression, showing no sign of shock at the mention of marriage between the two protagonists. Wenqing Yao felt a flicker of doubt. Was the He family truly so accepting of her marriage to He Jinan? Did they harbor no other emotions? Unbeknownst to her, He Mama had discovered her son's feelings years prior. Initially, she had felt displeased, having stumbled upon the truth quite by accident. On the anniversary of Wenqing Yao's biological parents' passing, she often fell ill during that time each year. One evening, she intended to check on Wenqing Yao's condition and perhaps bring her a cup of warm milk. As she approached Wenqing Yao's room, she prepared to knock but caught sight of her son through the crack in the door. Initially, she thought nothing of it, assuming he was there to care for Wenqing Yao, but then she was struck by a flicker of curiosity. Her usually aloof son had taken the initiative to show concern. Just as she was about to call out to him, she witnessed her composed son lean down, his lips brushing against Wenqing Yao's forehead, lingering for a moment before departing. She was filled with an overwhelming sense of fear, having never seen such tenderness in his typically indifferent gaze, a love that a grown man harbored for a woman. Chapter 19. Calling Wenqing Yao's sister-in-law 800 times. Before He Jinan noticed her, she quickly turned and fled to her bedroom, unable to sleep a wink that entire night. In the following days, she began to observe her son's behavior more closely, yet found nothing particularly unusual. He did not act out of line towards Wenqing Yao. After thoughtful consideration, she resolved not to confront her son's feelings, as he and Wenqing Yao were not siblings by blood, and this was his first experience of romantic affection. As a mother, she felt a sense of protectiveness and chose to keep this matter buried deep within her heart. Until now, the son has finally achieved his wish, and Yao has found a good home, a result that brings her great satisfaction. Wenqing Yao hesitated for a long time, then looked up and asked her elders at home, Grandfather, do you truly agree to my marriage with Ge? Will our union have any impact on the reputation of the He family? After all, the He family stands at the pinnacle in the capital, deeply rooted with a century's worth of heritage, placing them under public scrutiny, especially in grandfather's generation. The elder of the He family was once a prominent figure in both military and politics, frequently appearing in the news before stepping down. He Tsongkuan and He Jinan hold significant positions in the business realm, particularly He Jinan, who has taken the He group to unprecedented heights with his decisive leadership. Every move of the He family is closely watched, with even the slightest incident magnified beyond measure, let alone the matter of her marriage to He Jinan. Countless daughters from aristocratic families have sought to marry into the He family, and Wenqing Yao has seen no fewer than 10 individuals come forth to propose marriage, each eager to associate with the He family's fortune. They are not only attracted by the He family's wealth, but also by the exceptional character of He Jinan. Which family would not envy a son-in-law as handsome and capable, with a composed and reserved demeanor? Even collaborating with the subsidiaries of the He group would secure their financial well-being for generations. Her marriage to He Jinan is likely to stir considerable waves throughout the capital. The elder of the He family discerned Wenqing Yao's concerns and waved his hand, speaking kindly. The He family has weathered a century of storms in this place, where dragons lie hidden, and your marriage, a joyful occasion for all, will surely elicit no dissent. Had your biological parents still been alive, I would have urged He Jinan to propose to you long ago. Alas, life is unpredictable, and your parents departed too soon. It is our good fortune to welcome such a fine young lady into the He family, and a blessing for Jean-Nan as well. As long as I am here, no one dares to utter any gossip. I only hope that you and Jean-Nan will live happily together. Promise, grandfather, you will have no worries, and simply enjoy your life. The He family is not only your maternal family, but also your steadfast support moving forward. He Mama then interjected, looking at Wen Qingyao with maternal affection. Indeed. Yao Yao, you will always be my daughter. Even after marrying your brother, this will still be your home. The opinions of outsiders are of little consequence. Your happiness is the greatest wish of your father and me. Seeing the atmosphere shift, He Baba chimed in. Yao Yao, we wholeheartedly support your marriage to Jean-Nan. As for what the outside world may say or report, do not fret. No one in the capital dares to speak ill of the He family, and with Jean-Nan around, who would dare to challenge him? Although He Baba's last remark was a jest, it held a kernel of truth. He Jean-Nan now wields substantial control over the He group, with connections that span both political and business realms, surpassing even his authority. He trusts that his son possesses ample capability to safeguard his wife. Wen Qingyao gazed at the silver-haired elder of the He family and the warm, loving parents, her eyes moistening. After the untimely passing of her biological parents, her situation had been dire. The He family had no obligation to take her in, yet they treated her as their own, cherishing her as their jewel. No different from He Jinju. Even now, marrying the most outstanding heir, He Jinan, fills them with pride. She feels that her good fortune from a past life has granted her such a wonderful family. Looking at the elders of the He family, she nodded earnestly. I will. Grandfather, uncle, and aunt. After marrying, I will cherish and care for Go, ensuring you have no worries. Seeing the emotional atmosphere, He Jinju could not help but feel teary-eyed. She deliberately put down her chopsticks, pouted, and exclaimed, I'm upset. You all knew about Yao Yao and Big Brother's marriage, yet I was left in the dark. I'm feeling emotional. Big Brother, you better think carefully about how to handle this. I have conditions for calling Yao Yao sister-in-law. As her words fell, laughter erupted among the He family. He Jinan set down his soybean milk, wiped his mouth with a napkin, and moved with the grace befitting a well-mannered gentleman. With a calm demeanor, he looked at He Jinju and stated firmly, this month's allowance is 3 million. I'll have Zhao He transfer it to your account shortly. Upon hearing this, He Jinju leapt up, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Really? 3 million? 3 million was her allowance for a year. She could hardly fathom how many beautiful clothes and bags that some could buy. He Jinan stood up leisurely, ignoring her, and took the still smiling, bewildered Wen Qingyao by the hand, whispering softly in her ear, audible only to the two of them. Let us go. We're going to get our marriage certificate. Wen Qingyao, taken aback by his sudden action and words, instinctively followed him. Meanwhile, He Jinju, caught up in her excitement, completely overlooked the couple as they walked past her, confirming with her parents beside her. Mom, did I hear correctly? Big Brother just said he would give me 3 million, right? Receiving a nonchalant nod from her mother, Dong Nu, He Jinju felt as if she had just been invigorated. She squealed, bouncing around the restaurant. From now on, I will treat Yao Yao like a fairy and call her sister-in-law 800 times a day. In the meantime, Wen Qingyao found herself being led by He Jinan to the underground parking garage, glancing at his tall, refined figure, and asked, Go, are we really going to get the certificate now? He Jinan maintained a steady pace, not pausing for a moment, tightening his grip on her hand. Emma. Wen Qingyao remained silent, allowing him to guide her. Zhao He had long awaited their arrival by the car, upon seeing the He general holding Miss Wen's hand. His expression bore no surprise, for he had anticipated this day, knowing that once He general had set his sights on something, he never faltered, especially when it came to matters of the heart. Zhao He observed the two individuals approaching, gathering his thoughts and composing himself. He respectfully opened the door for them, greeting them with a smile. Mr. He, Miss Wen. Wen Qingyao's gaze fell upon Zhao He. She recognized him as the assistant who had consistently followed He Jinan during his 2-year stay in the United States. She smiled and nodded. Assistant Zhao. He Jinan turned around, glancing at the elegant Wen Qingyao before redirecting his attention to Zhao He, his voice steady. From now on, remember to address her as Mrs. He. Wen Qingyao's luminous complexion reddened visibly, and she cast a playful glare at He Jinan, who feigned ignorance as he wrapped his arm around her waist and led her to the car. Zhao He was taken aback. He had not anticipated Mr. He's efficiency in securing such a beautiful partner so swiftly. His demeanor grew even more respectful, his words tinged with delight. Yes, Mr. He, Mrs. He. The limited edition Rolls-Royce Cullinan soon departed from the main building. The He family estate comprised a vast villa complex, essentially a military and political compound of considerable size. It took about 10 minutes to drive out, with guards stationed at the entrance, standing watch. He Jinan owned numerous vehicles, all bearing similar license plates, predominantly consisting of consecutive numbers. Upon sighting He Jinan's car from a distance, the guards preemptively pressed the remote to open the gate and saluted. It was Tuesday, and the Civil Affairs Bureau was relatively empty. In just over 10 minutes, the 2 red marriage certificates were handed to them. Wen Qingyao held the burning hot certificate in her hands, momentarily struggling to accept that she was now a married woman. dressed in a white shirt paired with a skirt. She turned to He Jinan, who had also donned a white shirt and black trousers. Her emotions were complex as she gently opened the marriage certificate. Noting how well-matched they appeared in the photo, their shoulders nearly touching. During the photo session, the photographer had jokingly remarked on their somewhat awkward poses. You two newlyweds should sit closer together. It looks as if you're in a hasty marriage. Wen Qingyao inwardly scoffed. Wasn't that precisely the case? In the photograph, her smile radiated, showcasing her bright eyes and pearly teeth, while He Jinan's typically aloof expression bore a hint of softness. She couldn't help but sigh inwardly, wishing they genuinely liked and loved each other. She was acutely aware that He Jinan's affections lay elsewhere. Had it not been for that unfortunate incident, she would not have married him. All of He Jinan's kindness stemmed from a sense of duty rather than genuine affection. After experiencing the events with Gu Yanxi, she had no desire to contemplate matters of the heart. As Wen Qingyao was lost in thought, her marriage certificate was unexpectedly snatched away. Stunned, she looked up to see He Jinan placing the two pristine certificates into the inner pocket of his suit jacket. His voice calm and unperturbed. I will keep the marriage certificate safe to prevent it from getting lost. Wen Qingyao had no objections. After all, the marriage was not entirely genuine. She nodded. Oh. He Jinan glanced at his watch, noting the time, then naturally took her soft hand in his. Let us go. I'll take you back to school. Wen Qingyao had grown immune to holding hands and felt no discomfort, obediently agreeing. Okay. He Jinan cast a sidelong glance at her, the corners of his mouth subtly lifting. Zhao assistant, you can stop here. Wen Qingyao observed that they were about 100 meters from Jing University and instructed Zhao He, who was driving. The car sent by the He family to pick her up was typically a more understated Audi. This vehicle was too extravagant and conspicuous. If it were to be parked in front of the bustling Jing University at noon, she feared she would be trending on the school forum within an hour with a title like a third-year student from Jing University spotted in a luxury car. She preferred to maintain a low profile. Aside from Tang Linlin, no one knew she was the sole daughter of the founder of the Wen Group, and even fewer were aware that she had been taken in by the He family. Receiving her instruction, Zhao He glanced at He Jinan through the rearview mirror, noting that he showed no signs of protest, and gently pressed the brake. The Rolls-Royce came to a smooth stop. Wen Qingyao breathed a sigh of relief. Stealing a glance at the busy man, she did not wish to disturb him. Softly, she said, Jinan, I'll be leaving now. Goodbye. He Jinan's gaze shifted from the screen to Wen Qingyao, lingering silently upon her, causing her heart to race. Feeling flustered, she stammered, what's wrong? Is there something you need? He Jinan wore a pair of glasses with a metallic frame perched on his prominent nose, slightly obscuring his deep, contemplative gaze. His demeanor, typically serious, now bore a touch of elegance as he regarded her with measured calmness. Now that we are married, shouldn't you change how you address me? Wen Qingyao paused momentarily, then grasped his intent. She hesitantly inquired, what should I call you? He Jinan removed his glasses and leisurely took a cloth from the center console to wipe them. Wen Qingyao's heart raced at the sight of his actions. He glanced at her. Address me as normal couples do. Wen Qingyao bit her lip, feeling warmth spread across her cheeks. She opened her mouth to call him husband, but found the words stuck in her throat. Perhaps the pressure emanating from He Jinan was too intense. His traditionally aloof demeanor had taken root in her heart. After much hesitation, she stammered, Jinan. He Jinan's eyelashes fluttered, and he set down the cloth, leaning closer to her without putting his glasses back on. In a soothing tone, he said, come closer, be near me. Wen Qingyao's heart raced as she clenched her fists, uncertain of his intentions, yet her body obediently moved toward him. Before she could articulate her thoughts, she felt a sudden, gentle yet cool touch upon her lips. Her eyes widened in shock, just as she prepared to resist. He Jinan withdrew with such swiftness that it seemed like a fleeting illusion. If it weren't for the tingling sensation on her lips, she might have doubted the occurrence. He Jinan affectionately ruffled the still-dazed Wen Qingyao's hair, his voice warm as he advised, go on, my wife, study hard. As he spoke, the door on the side was opened by Zhao He, who had somehow exited the vehicle without her noticing. Wen Qingyao, realizing what had transpired, felt her face heat up rapidly. In a fluster, she pushed past He Jinan and exited the car. She walked for what felt like an eternity, the warmth of his hand lingering on her head. Turning back, she saw the black Rolls-Royce still parked steadily. Her heart raced anew as she bit her lip and strode into the school. After wandering the campus for a while, the heat on Wen Qingyao's face gradually subsided. The afternoon class was rather lackluster, devoid of substance. Wen Qingyao and Tang Linlin sat at the back of the classroom, idly scrolling through their phones. With Grandpa He's birthday approaching, Wen Qingyao had yet to decide on a suitable gift. Lost in thought, Tang Linlin, who had been quietly staring at her phone, suddenly sat up straight, her fingers trembling with excitement as she pointed at the trending topic on her screen, exclaiming, Look, look. Due to the constraints of being in class, she dared not speak too loudly, yet the terror in her voice was unmistakable. Yao Yao, quickly check the trending topics. You and Gu Yanxi are on the hot search. Wen Qingyao's mind momentarily blanked, and she looked at Tang Linlin in bewilderment, slowly regaining her composure. Upon opening her phone, The top trending entry prominently featured Gu Yanqi and Wen Qingyao, accompanied by an eye-catching explosive tag. Wen Qingyao's mind went blank for several seconds, her reaction delayed. The screen displayed a revealing post from a certain entertainment gossip media outlet, complete with a few high-resolution photos evidently taken with professional equipment. In the images, Gu Yanqi and Lin Wantong appeared intimately outside a high-end club, with Gu Yanqi even wrapping an arm around Lin Wantong's waist, leaning down to whisper in her ear, while Lin Wantong beamed with delight. Another image captured the two walking side by side into a five-star hotel, the timestamp indicating it was from the previous night. The post's caption was laced with ambiguity and provocation. The young master of the Gu family, Gu Yanqi, exposed for a new romance? Suspected to have spent a wonderful night with the Lin family's young lady. It is said that their relationship has received family approval. Could good news be imminent? Although the post did not directly involve the parties concerned, the identities of Gu Yanqi and Lin Wantong were not secrets within the capital's social circle, and the comments section was inundated with various insider revelations and speculations. The young lady of the Lin family? Is she from the Lin family that rose to prominence through jewelry? This truly is a match of equal standing. Some comments were from students at Jingda University. Wow, wasn't Gu Xiao previously pursuing our school's ice-cold beauty, Wen Qingyao? Has he switched targets? Of course, if he couldn't win her over, he would naturally seek a new goal, especially since the Lin family is not lacking in prestige. However, the speed of this transition is astonishing. Just a few days ago, someone saw Gu Xiao sending flowers to Wen Qingyao. As a scion of a wealthy family, one understands that feelings come swiftly and depart just as quickly. Am I the only one who thinks Gu Yanqi and Lin Wantong are quite a match? Their backgrounds and looks are well suited. Tang Lin, observing these comments, felt her fingers tremble with rage. Match? What match? That scoundrel Gu Yanqi. Just a few days ago, he was still showering affection on Yao Yao. His change of heart is faster than flipping a page. And Lin Wantong, knowing Gu Yanqi's previous intentions, still. Wen Qingyao was indifferent to these matters. What concerned her were the subsequent entries. Gu Yanqi once pursued Wen Qingyao's identity. The comments below were all about her. As she scrolled further down, Wen Qingyao's expression shifted from confusion to calmness. Yao Yao, how did you also end up on the hot search? How did Gu Yanqi reveal that he pursued you? What is he thinking? Isn't he putting you in a precarious position? Isn't he dating Lin Wantong? Why drag you into this? Is he out of his mind? And he's even kissing Lin Wantong? How have they not killed each other? Tang Lin rapidly scrolled through each entry, her indignant voice echoing in Wen Qingyao's ears. Wen Qingyao was entirely focused on the trending topics and momentarily did not respond to her. Her fingertips glided over the screen, as if she were not reading news about herself, but rather observing as an outsider. She had not clicked on the previous entries, her finger hovering only over the entry regarding Wen Qingyao's identity, instinctively holding her breath. Upon entering, she had braced herself for her identity to be exposed, her gaze fixed on the phone screen, only to be unexpectedly met with nothing, just a loading circle endlessly spinning. She inexplicably exhaled in relief. Yao Yao, what should we do? The internet is buzzing about you and Gu Yanqi, and there are even people cursing you for being an interloper. I'm so furious. Are these netizens out of their minds? Look at this, huh? Why is nothing showing on the page? Tang Lin shook her phone. Is my phone broken? Or is it a signal issue? She glanced at the dazed Wen Qingyao. Yao Yao, does your phone have signal? Wen Qingyao unconsciously shook her head. Mine doesn't either. Fortunately, her identity had not been exposed. She did not care about anything else, as long as it did not tarnish the face of the He family. If her true identity as the biological daughter of Wen Chongqing was revealed, and that she had been raised in the He family for many years, always being He Jinnan's sister, and now married to He Jinnan, she knew without thinking that even if those people did not speak openly, they would criticize the He family's reputation behind her back, possibly even attaching scandalous labels to her and He Jinnan. She did not wish to further stain the He family's name. She already felt a sense of guilt towards all the family members and did not want them to suffer any harm. Tang Lin kept refreshing her feed, her eyes glued to the phone screen for even a second, watching in disbelief as many trending topics were removed. She rubbed her eyes in disbelief, and upon focusing again, her emotions were beyond excitement. Her blood felt like it was boiling. She vigorously tapped Wen Qingyao's arm. Yao Yao, what is going on? Yao Yao, all the entries about you on the hot search are gone. Tang Lin's voice interrupted Wen Qingyao's thoughts, and upon hearing her words, Wen Qingyao looked at the trending topics again. Indeed, her name no longer appeared. All entries related to her had vanished, leaving only the topic Gu family's second young master meets with the Lin family's young lady, sharing a passionate kiss. Upon seeing this, an uncontrollable thought surfaced in Wen Qingyao's mind. Tang Lin refreshed the feed numerous times, and there truly were no trending topics related to Wen Qingyao. A flash of inspiration struck her, and she shook Wen Qingyao's arm, speaking in fear. Yao Yao, do you think this might be some influential person who had your trending topics removed? Tang Lin boldly speculated to herself. It must be. Someone influential is certainly helping you, Yao Yao. Otherwise, how could all entries related to you vanish in mere seconds? Wen Qingyao tightened her grip on her phone. Tang Linlin's guess was not entirely off. She had already figured out who was assisting her in removing the trending topics. She did not know many people in the capital, aside from the He family, and had little interaction with the outside world. To swiftly eliminate all related trending topics in such a short time, without leaving a trace, was no easy task. Wen Qingyao's heart raced inexplicably, and her breathing became noticeably lighter. Other than her high-ranking and newlywed husband, He Jinan, she could think of no one else. Though your trending topics have been removed, I still want to say that Gu Yanqi is utterly outrageous. How could he do this? Tang Linlin could not help but begin her tirade again. He is pursuing you while simultaneously engaging with someone else. What is that? Is it a seamless transition? And now it's common knowledge. Is he deliberately trying to embarrass you? And that trending topic must have been bought, right? Just for the sake of hype. Lin, Wen Qingyao softly interjected, interrupting Tang Linlin's complaints. Actually, this is for the best. Huh, what is good about this? Tang Linlin asked, puzzled. At least it has allowed me to see things clearly. Wen Qingyao turned to Tang Linlin, offering a faint, gentle smile that seemed to exude relief. As if she had shed a heavy burden. He is not the kind of person worthy of lifelong commitment. It is better to discover this now than to realize it after truly being together, or even after marriage, don't you think? Tang Linlin paused for a moment. And upon reflection, she found that there was indeed some truth to this reasoning. Long pain is worse than short pain. Yet, he is still infuriating. Moreover, now that this has escalated, there will undoubtedly be more rumors circulating in the school. I fear you might be upset. There is nothing to be upset about. Wen Qingyao's tone remained calm as she picked up her phone, her fingertips gliding across the screen as if she were manipulating something. There was never an official beginning between him and me. His choices, his life, no longer concern me. What others say is their own affair. Meanwhile, atop the He Corporation building, Zhao He maneuvered his tablet interface, raising his eyes respectfully to He Jinan, who was engrossed in reviewing documents. President He, the Public Relations Department has been closely monitoring public sentiment. All trending topics regarding Miss Wen have been withdrawn. Should we pursue legal action against the media involved? Just moments ago, an indiscreet media outlet not only exposed the second young master of the Gu family, Gu Yanqi, socializing with a beauty but also thoroughly uncovered Miss Wen's background. Moreover, that second young master voluntarily disclosed to the media his past pursuit of Miss Gu. His brows knitting slightly. What else does it say? His long fingers scrolled through the screen. He had already grasped the situation's intricacies without needing Zhao He to report. He had grown accustomed to He Jinan's ruthless and unapproachable tactics. The colder and more composed He Jinan appeared during contract negotiations, silently praying that the president would not unleash his wrath upon the innocent. The 8-minute confession video was watched by He Jinan without a second's deviation. He Jinan leaned forward to retrieve a cigarette box from his desk, his movements as steady as ever. He deftly opened the lid and extracted a cigarette, placing it between his lips but refraining from lighting it, wishing to avoid the scent of smoke. His profound gaze fell upon a photograph on the desk, its depths inscrutable. His expression perpetually indifferent, revealing nothing of his thoughts. The photograph depicted a radiant young girl, beaming with joy, her high ponytail swaying as she held a purple iris. It was a picture of Wen Qingyao at 18. In an upscale entertainment establishment in the capital, in a private room on the top floor, Gu Yanqi lounged languidly on a sofa, a cigarette between his fingers, occasionally taking a puff. A pale blue haze obscured his inscrutable gaze. With his other arm, he carelessly embraced Lin Wantong, who, sensing his discontent, leaned in closer, her lips tenderly brushing against him. What's wrong, Yanqi? Did you buy that trending topic? I saw the photos from our last hotel visit. You were quite passionate. Lin Wantong, with a hint of girlish shyness, planted a kiss on Gu Yanqi's cheek. Her sweet voice laced with flirtation. Gu Yanqi casually massaged her shoulder, inhaling smoke and exhaling it towards her face. What? Did I not satisfy you earlier? Lin Wantong showed no concern for the tobacco smoke, lightly tapping his chest in a teasing manner, her laughter becoming more playful. You were amazing earlier. I loved it. She cast her eyes toward him, casually inquiring, a friend of mine happened to see the trending video of you pursuing Wen Qingyao. Is it true? Aren't we in a relationship? Why do you still have feelings for her? What is it about her that makes you chase her for so long? Lin Wantong's sultry tone hinted at a tinge of jealousy. She had never gotten along with Wen Qingyao or He Jinju. He Jinju was her cousin, the daughter of her mother's sister. Lin Wantong had long been aware that Wen Qingyao was the adopted daughter of the He family. She had despised He Jinju's innate superiority since childhood, the confidence that came with being a He family member, living life like a carefree princess, with doting parents and brothers. Any clothing worn by He Jinju represented months of Lin Wantong's pocket money. Even though He Jinju had never wielded her family's influence against her, nor had she looked down on her, Lin Wantong still harbored animosity toward He Jinju, extending it toward Wen Qingyao as well. In high school, Lin Wantong had a crush on Gu Yanqi, and upon learning that he favored Wen Qingyao, she viewed her as a thorn in her side. However, Wen Qingyao had the support of the He family and inherited a substantial share of the Wen Corporation, which deterred Lin Wantong from taking any drastic measures. She could only resort to sarcastic remarks whenever they crossed paths. The He family's formidable stature and the He Corporation's influence were well known throughout the capital. No other company dared to stake a claim on projects favored by the He Corporation. Her ineffectual father also sought to curry favor with He Jin-nan, which left Lin Wantong feeling perpetually belittled, directing all her dissatisfaction and resentment towards He Jinju and Wen Qingyao. As Lin Wantong observed Gu Yanqi's distracted demeanor, her frustration intensified, yet she dared not voice it. The trending topic vanished in mere seconds. Initially, she had no intention of inquiring. But upon witnessing Gu Yanqi's thoughts drift towards another woman, how could she possibly swallow her indignation? She clung to Gu Yanqi's waist, noting his silence. Her tone laced with resentment. Wen Qingyao merely possesses a bewitching visage. Is she truly deserving of your affections for so long? Gu Yanqi, having just calmed his emotions, found Lin Wantong's jealous remarks somewhat irksome. He withdrew his hand from her waist and spoke in a voice tinged with warning. Mind your own business. Lin Wantong observed the sudden shift in his demeanor as he released her, stepping away to light a cigarette. His expression betrayed the turmoil of unrequited love, further igniting her anger. Her tone dripped with sarcasm. Humph, you hold Wen Qingyao in such high regard, yet does she reciprocate your feelings? Perhaps she has already found solace in another man's arms. Otherwise, how could the trending topic be retracted so swiftly? Chapter 23. Parting ways with a Rolls Royce. As her words fell, Gu Yanqi seized her face with considerable force, startling Lin Wantong. She looked up at him, his usually composed features marred by suppressed fury. On what grounds do you speak of her like that? Let me tell you, Lin Wantong. Don't assume that just because we spent the night together, you have become my girlfriend. How I feel about her is not for you to critique. He flung her face away, and the abruptness of his anger left Lin Wantong dazed. As realization dawned upon her, a fierce blaze of fury ignited within. Tears streamed down her face as she covered her mouth. Disbelief etched across her features. Gu Yanqi, it was you who said you wanted to try being with me that night. Without that, why would I have shared my body with you? Even if I like you, I would never stoop to such depths. Now you question me? You sleep with me while harboring feelings for Wen Qingyao. What kind of man are you? Gu Yanqi's brows knitted in deep frustration. He had been agitated for hours, and the trending topic had not yielded a single notification on his phone. Lin Wantong's incessant clamoring only added to his irritation. He pinched the bridge of his nose and pointed towards the door. Leave. Lin Wantong, witnessing his palpable impatience, sensed the once intimate atmosphere dissipate entirely. Reluctantly, she stomped her foot and adjusted her clothing. Gu Yanqi, you deserve to be alone for the rest of your life. Fueled by a mix of anger and grievance, she whirled around and exited. The heavy door of the private room slammed shut with a resounding thud, startling the passing waiter, who recoiled several steps, wary of provoking the wrong individual. At last, the room fell into silence. Gu Yanqi felt a throbbing pain at his temples, vexed as he rested his hand on his forehead, indifferent to Lin Wantong's furious departure. His fingers swiped across the phone screen, revealing an empty message list, save for Wen Qinyao's name at the top. Her profile picture depicted an endearing animal motif. With a sense of melancholy, Gu Yanqi tapped on it, his gaze lingering on their last conversation from the previous Friday morning. He had deliberately orchestrated the trending topic to observe whether Wen Qingyao would remain unaffected by it. Unbeknownst to him, Lin Wantong had already sent their intimate photographs to Wen Qingyao days prior. Their conversation had ended on a sour note yesterday, and he watched Wen Qingyao leave, unwilling to plead for her stay, assuming her anger stemmed solely from the Lin Wantong incident. He believed time would heal the rift. After all, she had previously shown indifference to his flirtations with other women, always maintaining a calm demeanor as if his entanglements with others were of no consequence. He despised this version of Wen Qingyao, wishing for her to cling to him like other women, prioritizing him in all matters, displaying the same fervor. But he understood that Wen Qingyao would never conform to such expectations. Hence, he sought to escalate the situation, making it public, eager to determine whether she truly remained unfazed by his romantic entanglements. Yet, even now, Wen Qingyao exhibited no signs of concern, offering no inquiries, no accusations, not even a single word, remaining an aloof observer devoid of any emotional response. Frustration mounted within him, irritated by Wen Qinyao's absence and the possibility that her words yesterday hinted at a desire to sever their bond entirely. He was vexed by the thought that she could depart so resolutely, leaving no trace of hesitation. The more he pondered, the more his agitation grew, his grip on the phone tightening as if it might shatter under the pressure. His expression darkened with an unprecedented gloom, and he desperately sought an outlet to relieve his inner turmoil. He extinguished his cigarette in the ashtray with force, rose to his feet, and strode purposefully towards Jingda. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Wen Qingyao, with her backpack slung over one shoulder and phone in hand, exited the school gates. Glancing at the location Zhao Zhuli had sent, she recognized it as the spot where she had disembarked earlier that morning. As she walked, the evening sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm orange glow that mingled with the distant clouds. The bustling road was adorned with the vibrant lights of neon signs and headlights. Wen Qingyao spotted a sleek, obsidian Cullinan, resembling a quietly lurking beast, exuding an aura of unspoken authority, perfectly in line with the understated yet composed demeanor of its owner. Her breath caught, and her steps instinctively quickened. Zhao He, noticing Wen Qingyao's approach, promptly exited the vehicle, moving to open the door with a respectful demeanor. Madam. Wen Qingyao, still unaccustomed to such a title, offered a vague nod in acknowledgement. Approaching the car, she glanced inside, only to find it empty of He Jinnan's presence, a wave of relief washing over her. Zhao He, perceiving the direction of her gaze, misunderstood her intentions, thinking she sought He Zong. He kindly explained, Madam, He Zong is currently occupied with a meeting at the company and instructed me to fetch you. Wen Qingyao paused, surprised, before nodding. Okay. Without further comment, she entered the vehicle. Simultaneously, a red Ferrari screeched to a halt at Jingda's entrance, narrowly avoiding a collision with the slowly moving Rolls-Royce Cullinan. Wen Qingyao had never visited He Shi Group before. She followed Zhao He as he led her to the exclusive elevator that ascended to the top floor. The uppermost level of He Shi Group housed the CEO's office, adorned with pristine carpets and ample space, with employees' workstations partitioned neatly. The elite in the CEO's office formed a crucial part of the extensive, intricate operational framework of the corporation, devoid of workplace machinations or aimless procrastination, characterized solely by a commitment to diligent work. The plush carpets cushioned her footsteps, allowing Wen Qingyao's arrival to go unnoticed. Zhao He informed her, Madam, He Zong's meeting will conclude in approximately an hour. Please take a moment to rest in the office. He opened the office door, and Wen Qingyao nodded, stepping inside. The office's decor resonated with He Jinnan's dignified aura, exuding an atmosphere of solemnity and gravitas. The minimalist modern decor, dominated by shades of gray and black, features a spacious desk set against 3 walls of floor-to-ceiling windows, providing a panoramic view of the capital city. On the desk rests an office computer, while documents are neatly arranged in the upper right corner. Nearby, a reception table and a sofa complete the space. Wen Qingyao does not approach the desk, but rather chooses to sit at the reception table, her gaze meandering listlessly around the office. Moments later, the office door swings open to reveal Zhao He, who approaches with a glass of freshly squeezed juice in hand. Madam, this is freshly squeezed juice to quench your thirst. Wen Qingyao accepts it with a polite, thank you. Taking a sip, she discovers it is her favored lemon juice. Zhao He, perceptive as ever, hands her a tablet. Madam, these are several villas and residences recently arranged by Mr. He. Please have a look and see which one you prefer for your future residence with Mr. He. Wen Qingyao's expression falters momentarily as she takes the tablet, casually scrolling through a few listings, all of which are premier properties in the capital. A flicker of astonishment crosses her face. She had not anticipated that He Jinnan possessed such an extensive real estate portfolio. With 6 properties located in the heart of the city, including both spacious apartments and villas, all adorned in a similar style. While she was aware of He Jinnan's wealth, the sheer magnitude of his holdings in the highly coveted cityscape astonished her. Even with her own shares in the Wen family business left by her biological parents, she could hardly fathom being able to buy such an impressive array of properties. Wen Qingyao, taken aback, refrains from viewing further, as she and He Jinnan are not truly a couple in the conventional sense, and thus, she sees no need to invest considerable thought into their living arrangements. She feels indifferent about where they reside, ultimately selecting a spacious apartment that is conveniently located near the He Group and the family residence. Settling on the Yushan Gongguan. This one will do, she declares, handing the tablet back to Zhao He. He glances at the screen before observing the nonchalant expression on her face. He lets out a silent sigh, aware that she does not realize these properties were meticulously selected by Mr. He himself. He reflects on the warmth that adorned Mr. He's face when choosing these homes, silently wishing for Mr. He's success in his pursuit of love. With Wen Qingyao left alone in the office while He Jinnan remains in a meeting, her phone suddenly emits a buzzing sound. She unlocks the screen to find a message from He Jinju. Zhu Bao Bei. Yao Yao, where are you? Is my brother not by your side? A smile graces Wen Qingyao's lips as she types back. Wen Qingyao, I'm at Jinan Ji's company. He's still in a meeting. What up, Zhu Bao Bei. What? My brother is shamelessly luring you to his company? Yao Yao, I didn't dare message you today. Grandpa and the others told me not to ask about you, but I really couldn't hold back anymore. He Jinju recalls the moment she discovered her brother and Yao Yao's secret and hesitates to voice her thoughts. Just as she descends the stairs, her grandfather shoots her a sidelong glance, casually stating, your brother and Yao Yao are getting married soon. There's no need to be surprised or inquire about their matters. Do you understand? Reflecting on her own foolish expression at that moment, He Jinju feels betrayed by Yao Yao for never mentioning such a significant development. Zhu Bao Bei, hurry and tell me, when did you and my brother get together? I didn't notice any signs at all. Yao Yao, you were too good at hiding it. Am I really going to have to call you sister-in-law now? I can't accept that. Who can truly comprehend her feelings? Awakening to find her sister and best friend transformed into her sister-in-law? Zhu Bao Bei, Yao Yao, weren't you fond of Gu Yanxi? And my brother? Inu Jie Jie is returning to the country soon. Hasn't he been waiting for her? What is going on? How did you two suddenly get married without warning? Please tell me. I'm dying of curiosity, Yao Yao. When Qing Yao bites her lip, hesitating over whether to confess to He Jinju. This matter weighs heavily on her heart. And after a moment, she presses the send button. When Qing Yao. Actually, it's not for any other reason. That night, I had been drinking, and coincidentally, Jin Ngu came back to pick me up. In my drunken state, I unexpectedly had an intimate encounter with him. Such a revelation is difficult for her to articulate, not a matter of pride, as she feels shame and regret for taking advantage of He Jinan while intoxicated. Recalling the incident still leaves her incredulous that she and He Jinan shared such intimacy. After hitting send, as anticipated, the chat remains silent for a full 3 minutes. She can almost envision He Jinju's astonished reaction on the other end of the line. She continues typing. As for his relationship with Cui Enyu, you need not worry. In 2 years, I will separate from your brother. He Jinju hardly registers when Qing Yao's last statement amidst the barrage of messages. What? Yao Yao, you've already been with my brother like that. When? Was it last week? I remember messaging you that day, and you seemed so lethargic. You were in a bad mood, and went drinking, and my brother came to pick you up? When did he become so kind-hearted? Wait, the key point is that you two actually ended up in a passionate encounter that night? How is that possible? My brother, a 30-year-old man who is usually so aloof and self-disciplined, took advantage of the situation? Yao Yao, how could he do this? When Qing Yao, watching the incessant stream of messages flood her screen, feels a tremor of anxiety as her thoughts involuntarily drift back to that night. To be fair, He Jinan was not entirely taking advantage of her. She distinctly remembers that not only did he initiate the encounter, but she also, in a tipsy state, had pushed him onto the bed, boldly commanding him not to move while she took charge. At this recollection, when Qing Yao's cheeks flush with embarrassment. With He Jinan still engaged in his meeting, the office remains empty, offering her a moment to discreetly fan herself as she grapples with the heat rising to her face. Unbeknownst to her, every gesture is being observed by He Jinan, who remains in the conference room, in a space designed for dozens. The marketing manager elaborates on the next quarter's strategy, discreetly monitoring He Jinan's expression. He notes that the previously stern demeanor of the CEO has softened, a hint of warmth now glimmering in his eyes. The manager, mistaking this for Mr. He's approval of his proposal, feels a surge of confidence and continues to present with renewed vigor. He Jinan sits composedly, clad in an impeccably tailored suit that accentuates his broad shoulders. His long, sturdy legs are elegantly encased in tailored trousers, exuding the charm of a mature man. He lowers his gaze to his phone screen, where the image of the girl appears vividly. Even the conversation displayed is captured by high-end recording equipment. However, He Jinan's gaze did not rest upon her phone screen. Every girl possesses her own privacy, and as long as she is happy, he will not concern himself with the details. He merely wished to catch a glimpse of her after a day apart, watching as when Qing Yao engaged in conversation. Her cheeks flushed with a shyness reminiscent of lovers whispering sweet nothings, while she pretended to fan her face with her delicate hands. Resembling an adorable little rabbit caught in mischief, He Jinan's throat subtly shifted, maintaining an expression of calm indifference, yet the darkness in his eyes deepened, revealing an inscrutable depth that left no one aware of his thoughts. Chapter 25. Everything looks beautiful. 20 minutes later, He Jinan closed the documents in his hands, and the executives in the conference room collectively exhaled in relief. He rose, adjusting the cuffs of his suit with his long fingers, and casually glanced at his watch. It was already 7:30. That will be all for today. His deep voice resonated in the room as he turned to leave, his steps slightly quicker than usual. Zhao He jogged to catch up. President He, as per your instruction, Madam has chosen the suite at Yushan Gongguan. He Jinan's pace momentarily faltered, a barely perceptible smile gracing his lips. Yes, arrange for the necessities to be prepared. He paused, adding, the master bedroom should be styled to her preference. The larger, the better. Understood, President He. Zhao He mentally noted the reserved nature of his boss, who, despite his evident care for his wife, insisted on maintaining a facade of professionalism. Upon entering his office, He Jinan's gaze immediately settled on the figure on the sofa. When Qing Yao had unknowingly fallen asleep, curled up in one corner of the spacious couch, resembling a languid cat. The light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows cast a gentle glow upon her, enveloping her in a soft golden hue. He Jinan approached quietly, observing her from above. She wore a light blue dress today, which accentuated her snow-like complexion, and her long eyelashes cast delicate shadows across her face. His gaze lingered on her slightly furrowed brow, stirring something within him. As he leaned down to smooth her furrowed brow, he noticed the new shoes adorning her feet, a pair of exquisite beige French Mary Janes, with faint signs of swelling at the heels. He Jinan's brow furrowed in concern. Kneeling before her, he carefully cradled her ankle in his large hands. Her slender ankle appeared particularly fragile against his palm, and the heel was already raw and reddened. He retrieved a handkerchief from his suit pocket and gently cleaned the skin surrounding the wound. His fingertips brushed over Wen Qing Yao's delicate skin, the texture reminiscent of fine jade. His throat involuntarily tightened, and his gaze deepened with emotion. The glaring redness against her fair skin was striking, inexplicably igniting a hidden desire within him. In her slumber, Wen Qingyao let out a soft hum, her toes curling slightly. This subtle movement caused He Jin-nan to momentarily catch his breath. He stared at her rounded toes, adorned with a pale pink polish that shimmered under the light. The muscles beneath his suit pants involuntarily tensed. He recalled that fateful evening when she had similarly curled her toes, trembling beneath him. His grip on her foot tightened unconsciously, eliciting a soft whimper of pain from her. "President He, the first aid kit is here," Zhao He's voice called from outside the door. He Jin-nan swiftly removed his suit jacket and draped it over Wen Qingyao's legs, his tone somber as he instructed, "Come in." As he accepted the first aid kit from Zhao He, the latter keenly noted the unnatural flush creeping up the back of his boss's neck. A glance at the sleeping lady on the sofa and the carefully discarded shoes on the floor prompted him to discreetly withdraw. As the iodine cotton swab made contact with the wound, Wen Qingyao instinctively recoiled in her sleep. He Jin-nan immediately softened his touch, instead employing his fingertips to gently massage the acupoints around her ankle to alleviate her fatigue. Wen Qingyao, groggy, opened her eyes, her gaze locking onto the man before her. He Jin-nan was intently focused on her foot, his handsome profile sharply defined in the sunlight. For a moment, she could not discern whether this was a dream or reality. "Jin-nan-go," she tentatively called, her voice still laced with sleep. He Jin-nan looked up, his deep-set eyes meeting hers. "You're awake? Why didn't you mention your shoes were uncomfortable?" Only then did Wen Qingyao realize her foot was being held in his hand, her cheeks flushing with warmth as she attempted to withdraw. "No, it's fine. New shoes are often like this." Yet He Jin-nan firmly grasped her ankle, insisting, "Stay still. The wound could become infected." He retrieved the first aid supplies from the coffee table drawer, his movements deft as he selected disinfectant pads and band-aids. Wen Qingyao stared at him, marveling at this man, who appeared so aloof and distant in public, yet now knelt before her with the utmost care, tending to her wound. His thick eyelashes cast shadows over his eyes, and she could not shake the feeling that the tension in his lips betrayed a hint of concern. As the disinfectant touched her wound, she involuntarily gasped. He Jin-nan immediately looked up, a flicker of guilt in his eyes. "Bear with it, it will be over soon." His thumb gently caressed her foot, offering comfort. Wen Qingyao felt a warmth radiate from where they touched, her heart racing uncontrollably. "Why wear ill-fitting shoes?" He Jin-nan asked, applying a band-aid while his tone held a mix of reproach and unexpected gentleness. Wen Qingyao bit her lip, "Because they are beautiful. No girl can resist such lovely shoes, and besides, they aren't that painful. You don't have to worry, Jin-nan-go." He Jin-nan's hand hesitated momentarily, a complex emotion flashing in his eyes. He could not comprehend why young women would endure such discomfort for the sake of beauty. He set her foot down and sat beside her. "Do not do this again. You look good in anything, but comfort is paramount. Do you understand?" Wen Qingyao looked up at him, unsure whether he was genuinely complimenting her beauty or merely trying to alleviate her discomfort. "Oh, I understand. Thank you," she replied softly, glancing at the neatly placed band-aids on her feet, a strange warmth flooding her heart. He Jin-nan observed her lowered eyelashes, his throat tightening. He reached out, gently lifting her chin to compel her to meet his gaze. "Wen Qingyao," he rarely used her full name, "we are husband and wife. There's no need for such formality." Wen Qingyao gazed into his profound black eyes. His thumb brushed against her chin, causing her heart to skip a beat. The proximity between them allowed them to sense each other's breath, and the air seemed to crystallize. Chapter 26. What constitutes a discordant relationship? Wen Qingyao looked into He Jin-nan's dark eyes, her fingers curling slightly as she lowered her eyelashes. "Yes, I understand. Why take things so seriously? The person he likes is not her, and besides, they will be divorced in 2 years. Is he merely acting? Or does he truly regard this absurd marriage as genuine?" Wen Qingyao sat in the passenger seat, her fingers unconsciously brushing against the edge of the seatbelt. The temperature of the air conditioning was comfortable, yet she still felt a slight discomfort, perhaps due to the strong presence of the man beside her. He Jin-nan held the steering wheel with one hand, while the other casually rested on the window, his wristwatch gleaming subtly in the setting sun. "How did you find the house? Are you satisfied? If there's anything you need or any dissatisfaction, just let Zhao He know," he suddenly spoke, his voice low and steady. Wen Qingyao paused for a moment before replying. "Everything is fine. I have no other thoughts. I can live anywhere, after all. It's only for 2 years." She answered softly, her gaze dropping to her ankles. The new high heels she had just purchased lay quietly in the back seat, as she had swapped them for the comfortable flats He Jin-nan had left in the car. He Jin-nan nodded slightly, his attention fixed on the road ahead. "Yang Zongheng and the others have organized a gathering. They want to meet their sister-in-law. Do you want to go? If you're tired, we can head home directly." Sister-in-law? The term felt refreshingly new, causing her cheeks to flush inexplicably. Wen Qingyao turned to look at him. He Jin-nan's profile was sharply defined, his jawline taut, as if awaiting an important response. She suddenly realized it was the first time he was asking for her opinion rather than making a decision unilaterally. She bit her lip. "I'm fine either way," she habitually replied, but upon noticing the slight furrow in his brow, she amended, if your friends have made special arrangements? Would it be inappropriate not to go? He Jin-nan's fingers tapped lightly on the steering wheel. Don't consider them. What matters is whether you want to go. Wen Qingyao blinked in surprise. This sense of being respected felt so foreign that she was momentarily at a loss for words. In her previous understanding, marriage had seemed more like a transaction. He Jin-nan took on the responsibilities of the Wen family, and in return, she repaid him out of gratitude. Yet, after these few interactions, it appeared to be something different. He seemed to genuinely care about this marriage, as if she truly mattered to him. But she knew this was merely an illusion on her part. Having never been in love, she was unaware of how couples interacted or how spouses cohabited. Then let us go, she finally said, her voice firmer than before. After all, today is a special day. Let us celebrate. A barely perceptible smile tugged at the corners of He Jin-nan's mouth. All right. The car fell silent once more, yet this stillness no longer made Wen Qingyao uncomfortable. She quietly observed He Jin-nan's profile, recalling how, that morning at the Civil Affairs Bureau, he had stood beside her, their shoulders nearly touching. When the photographer had requested them to get closer, he had merely rested his hand gently on her waist. They had been positioned in a manner reminiscent of a loving newlywed couple. The address has been sent to your phone. He Jin-nan's voice interrupted her reverie. Take a look at what you'd like to eat. We can order in advance. Wen Qingyao took out her phone, and indeed, a message popped up. She opened the map and discovered it was a newly opened Chinese restaurant, rather upscale. About the wedding, He Jin-nan suddenly spoke again. His voice resonating clearly within the confines of the car. It will be held next month. What do you think? I've already commissioned the wedding dress. It shouldn't take too long. Wen Qingyao fingers unconsciously twisted together, her touch lingering on the screen. Wedding. The word spun on her tongue. Yet she struggled to voice it. I don't think we need to have a wedding. She finally managed to say, her voice so soft it was nearly inaudible. We are not truly a loving couple. We only exist as spouses in a legal sense. There is no need for a wedding. We can keep it from Grandpa and the others to avoid worrying them, and later, we can naturally inform them that our relationship is unsuitable and we should part ways. Had he not also said that in 2 years, he would let her go, marrying her due to that night's unforeseen circumstances, although she had overheard it? For these 2 years, they only needed to maintain a respectful distance. She could fulfill her role as his wife and repay his kindness. Perhaps before the 2 years were up, he would develop feelings for Cui Enyu, who had heard was returning to the country, and their old flame would rekindle. As for her and him, they were merely two individuals forced into marriage by circumstance, nothing more. He Jin-nan's fingers tightened momentarily on the steering wheel before he quickly relaxed them. What do you mean? What does it mean to say we should part ways if our relationship is unsuitable? His voice turned icy. Wen Qingyao felt a chill run through her at his sudden coldness, her fingers instinctively gripping the fabric of her clothing. The temperature in the car seemed to drop several degrees, and she could almost sense the chill radiating from He Jin-nan. I'm sorry. I just think. She bit her lip, her voice barely a whisper. This marriage was never founded on love. There is no need to make it so grand. What if it becomes difficult to end? He Jin-nan abruptly slammed on the brakes, bringing the car to a stop at the roadside. Wen Qingyao lurched forward due to inertia, only to be pulled back by the seatbelt. Startled, she looked up and found herself locked in his deep, inscrutable gaze, which made her instinctively withdraw. Wen Qingyao, do I need to remind you that we just registered our marriage this morning? Look at me. His voice was low, carrying an undeniable command. Wen Qingyao was compelled to meet his eyes, her heart racing uncontrollably. The last rays of the setting sun streamed through the car window, illuminating his profile, creating a sharp silhouette. Since we are officially married, you are now my wife, He Jin-nan, he enunciated deliberately, regardless of the circumstances. This marriage is real to me. A wedding must be held, and it must be splendid. There is no need to consider an exit. The outcome of this marriage is that you and I grow old together. Wen Qingyao was momentarily taken aback by the resoluteness in his words, unsure of how to respond. She had never seen this side of He Jin-nan. The eyes that were typically so calm and composed now burned with an emotion she could not comprehend. Grow old together? Was he out of his mind? Perhaps he was simply upset and speaking without thinking. Yet, before she could express her thoughts, He Jin-nan interrupted her. There is no yet. He gently caressed her cheek, his thumb tracing beneath her eye. Wen Qingyao, remember this. From today onward, you are Mrs. He. This identity will not change, whether in public or in private. His palm was warm, and despite the intimacy of the gesture, it caused Wen Qingyao to freeze. Such closeness felt alien between them, and she could almost detect the faint scent of sandalwood mingled with tobacco that lingered on him. Chapter 27. Do you want me to go look for another woman? Why are you doing this? She finally voiced her confusion. His recent demeanor toward her had been too much like that of a thoughtful new husband, forcing her to contemplate. Didn't you marry me because of that night's incident? Wasn't that our agreement? Why does it seem like you have developed real feelings for me? What agreement? He Jin-nan narrowed his eyes slightly. An agreement to think about divorce right after getting married? Do you think I would marry you simply because I wanted your body? He suddenly let out a light laugh, devoid of warmth. Wen Qingyao, what do you think marriage is? A child's play? The question left Wen Qingyao speechless. She certainly understood that marriage was not a trivial matter, yet she was acutely aware that the person he cherished was not her. Since their relationship was devoid of love, why should it be taken so seriously? Was their intimacy merely a consequence of that night? She could not fathom him, nor did she wish to. Lowering her gaze, her long eyelashes cast a shadow across her face. I apologize, let us proceed as you say. The vehicle fell into silence once more. Wen Qingyao felt an itch from the bandage on her ankle and gently rubbed it. Recalling the scene of He Jin-nan crouched down to apply the bandage for her. Had he treated Cui Enyu in the same tender manner, bestowing his gentle care upon another woman? She felt as though she had merely taken something that rightfully belonged to someone else. There was one more thing I wanted to mention in advance. She hesitated slightly, suppressing her trepidation, and said, after our marriage, I will not interfere with your private life. You may continue to pursue the one you cherish. I will not mind at all. It is perfectly fine, and you need not feel any guilt towards me. I do not care about that night. You need not be overly considerate or tender. Let us each lead our own lives. The atmosphere within the car seemed to grow even more stagnant. Wen Qingyao trembled as she lifted her eyes, stealing a glance at the man before her, taking in He Jin-nan's strikingly handsome face, shadowed by the darkness. She quickly lowered her head again. It was strange. Her words should have aligned with his sentiments. He could still pursue his beloved after their marriage. Yet the chill in his gaze felt as though it could pierce through her. Had she misinterpreted his intentions? He Jin-nan looked at the woman before him, who had incited his rising blood pressure, and spoke slowly and deliberately. Wen Yaoyao, say that again. Wen Qingyao took a deep breath. Was he deaf to her words? Given how close they were, why must she repeat herself? What I meant was, I will not meddle in your relationships outside. You may pursue your happiness. Let us maintain a facade of a married couple. The shadows cast by the streetlights danced upon He Jin-nan's profile, flickering in and out of illumination. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice steady. Wen Yaoyao, is that how you perceive me? A man who, despite being married, would indulge in affairs with other women? Do you want me to seek out other women? Wen Qingyao was taken aback. She had not anticipated such a question. That was not my intention. I merely thought, I understand. He Jin-nan interrupted her, his tone regaining composure. Thank you for your consideration, madam. If all women were as magnanimous as you, the institution of monogamy would have been abolished long ago. All men would owe you their gratitude for your advanced guidance on our marriage laws. The tone of his words was unexpectedly biting. Wen Qingyao found herself at a loss for how to respond, and turned her gaze back to the window. She did not see the veins bulging in He Jin-nan's hand gripping the steering wheel, nor did she notice the restrained longing hidden within his glances through the rearview mirror. He Jin-nan fell silent for a moment before suddenly unbuckling his seatbelt and leaning closer. He could not suppress the urge to reprimand her. Wen Qingyao instinctively recoiled, but he grasped the back of her head. His breath drew near, and before she could react, his lips descended upon hers with a warm and forceful touch. She widened her eyes in shock, her hands pressing against his chest, yet he pinned her wrists down with one hand against the seat. His kiss bore a hint of punishment, almost brutally forcing her lips apart as if to silence the hurtful words she had just uttered. Wen Qingyao's back pressed tightly against the seat, her breath filled with the scent of his dark wood mixed with tobacco. He Jin-nan sensed her tremors, and with his other hand, he tenderly caressed the nape of her neck, lightening his grip, yet deepening the kiss in a manner that brooked no refusal. The air inside the car grew thin, and Wen Qingyao's ears burned with heat. Despite their previous intimacy, she remained unaccustomed to him, producing soft whimpers as their lips intertwined. Please, don't. Her eyelashes fluttered in a frantic dance, casting delicate shadows upon He Jin-nan's cheek. It was only when she felt on the verge of breathlessness that he finally released her, maintaining a mere breath's distance between them. He Jin-nan's voice was low and husky, his thumb brushing against her moist lips. Wen Qingyao's chest rose and fell rapidly. Her lips, flushed from the kiss, parted slightly, leaving her momentarily speechless. The light from the street lamps filtered through the car window, illuminating her misty, almond-shaped eyes. He Jin-nan's gaze lingered on her dazed expression. As his throat constricted, he suddenly loosened his tie, his voice tinged with residual anger. Listen, his breath close enough to feel, I never act against my will. Since I have married you, I will take full responsibility. The name in my spouse column will only ever read Wen Qingyao. He paused momentarily. Do not entertain wild thoughts. I will not seek other women, and divorce is not even a consideration. I do not wish to hear the word divorce from your lips again. Otherwise, I will confine you in the master bedroom of the Yushan mansion, never to leave. Wen Qingyao curled up in the passenger seat, her lips still tingling from the kiss. His essence seemed to linger in the air, and she could feel the warmth of his breath brushing against her skin, carrying a hint of mint. The sudden kiss had thoroughly disrupted her thoughts. Trembling, she asked, Are you joking? He Jin-nan replied, You may find out. How could he still be displeased when granted the freedom to pursue others without the constraints of marriage? Noticing her silence, his gaze deepened. Did you hear me? Wen Qingyao snapped back to reality, acquiescing to his words. Oh, I heard you, yes. She responded softly, her heart racing as if it might burst forth from her chest. His gaze was fierce, his tone commanding, a stark contrast to the gentleness he had shown earlier in the morning. He Jin-nan finally released her. rebuckling his seatbelt and starting the car. The atmosphere within the vehicle remained somewhat charged, yet it had softened slightly compared to before. I will arrange the wedding, he said, eyes fixed ahead. You only need to try on the wedding dress and attend. Wen Qingyao replied with a gentle murmur, turning her gaze towards the fleeting scenery outside. Her lips felt fiery, her cheeks warm. She could not bring herself to believe that He Jin would truly lock her away. But what could possibly have motivated him to kiss her so unexpectedly? If it were merely to teach her a lesson, why would he kiss her so deeply? As if he wished to consume her entirely? The sun had dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deep hues of blue and purple. The two inside the car shared a tacit understanding to remain silent. When Qingyao gazed at the reflection of the man in the glass, his profile striking and resolute, devoid of any flaw. Having never scrutinized him closely before, she now realized that he embodied her aesthetic ideals completely. This man, once believed to be forever out of reach, the one she had once avoided, had now become the most intimate presence in her life. Despite her lack of understanding of his true intentions, in this moment, within the confines of the car, she inexplicably felt a sense of reassurance. When Qingyao discreetly glanced at the man focused on driving, letting out a soft sigh in her heart. Regardless, the path had been chosen, and there was no turning back. As for what the future held, that was a matter for time to unveil. Upon arrival, He Jinan parked the car and unbuckled his seatbelt. He moved to the passenger side and opened the door for Wen Qingyao. Hesitating momentarily, she reached out to steady herself on his arm as she exited the vehicle. The muscles in He Jinan's arm were taut, and the warmth emanated through the fabric of his suit to her palm. She quickly withdrew her hand, but in her haste, nearly stumbled. Be careful. He Jinan steadied her by the shoulder, the heat of his palm sending a shiver through her. He released her, but maintained a distance that allowed him to support her if needed, naturally taking her hand in his. Wen Qingyao looked down at their intertwined hands, noting how He Jinan's warm and broad palm enveloped her slender fingers. Despite his stern expression, the strength in his grip was gentle yet resolute, as if silently proclaiming something significant. Stealing a glance upward, she observed his profile illuminated by the light at the restaurant entrance, his jawline taut, clearly still harboring some anger. Although she could not discern the cause, Wen Qingyao bit her lip, a flicker of guilt rising within her. She did not wish to create an awkward atmosphere, especially since they would soon meet his friends. She gently shook their clasped hands, her voice soft. Is this restaurant newly opened? I don't recall hearing about it before. He Jinan's steps faltered slightly, his gaze still fixed ahead. Yes, it just opened last month. His voice was deep and calm, devoid of any discernible emotion. However, Wen Qingyao keenly sensed that his grip around her hand had tightened slightly. Do your friends come here often? She continued, attempting to spark conversation. Perhaps, but I rarely inquire about such matters while abroad. He Jinan replied succinctly, finally casting a sidelong glance at her. However, Yang Zongheng enjoys trying new restaurants. Wen Qingyao nodded, her gaze drifting to the exquisite decorations at the restaurant's entrance. It was a restaurant styled like a traditional Chinese courtyard, adorned with red lanterns and flanked by emerald bamboo along the flagstone path, exuding an air of antiquity. The ambience is quite lovely, she quietly remarked. He Jinan did not respond, but continued to lead her inside. Wen Qingyao sensed that his chill had somewhat dissipated, yet he remained silent. A waiter respectfully greeted them. Mr. Hey, your reserved private room is ready. This way, please. As they traversed the winding corridor, Wen Qingyao could not help but inquire again. Have you been here before? He Jinan offered a more detailed response this time. Once. The food is quite good. I thought you would enjoy it. Wen Qingyao felt a flutter in her heart, realizing that he had intentionally chosen a restaurant he believed she would like. She bit her lip and softly said, thank you. He Jinan did not reply, merely guiding her around a corner. Approaching the private room, he suddenly halted, catching Wen Qingyao off guard, nearly colliding with his back. What's wrong? She inquired, looking up in confusion. He Jinan turned to face her, his deep gaze fixed on her face. The corridor's lighting cast fragmented shadows in his eyes, rendering his expression particularly complex. Wait a moment, he said, his voice low. If they ask how we came to be together, just say that I pursued you, and we fell for each other, and you agreed. Wen Qingyao blinked in bewilderment. But we are clearly here because of that night. I know, He Jinan interrupted, his thumb unconsciously caressing her hand. I merely wished to prevent them from making jokes about it. Understanding his intention now, Wen Qingyao felt a warmth in her heart. He was protecting her feelings, not wanting her to feel embarrassed in front of his friends. After all, such a one-night affair was not something one could easily discuss, especially since she was still residing at the He household. All right, she nodded, a subtle smile curving her lips. He Jinan studied her for a couple of seconds before gently tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. This sudden act of intimacy took Wen Qingyao's breath away. His voice softened, and don't be nervous. They are all looking forward to meeting you. Her heart raced, her ears slightly flushed from his touch. I'm not nervous, she replied softly. He Jinan seemed poised to say something further, but ultimately just gave her hand a gentle squeeze before turning and pushing open the door to the private room. Oh, finally here, exclaimed a young man in a casual suit, rising with a radiant smile. I thought Mr. He would be reluctant to leave his home on his first day of marriage. Why is the little sister hiding behind Brother Nan? I was hoping to greet her. Which celestial being has captured our Mr. He's heart? Laughter erupted in the room, filled with good-natured teasing. Wen Qingyao's face flushed crimson, instinctively drawing closer to He Jinan before stepping forward to face everyone. Yang Zongheng, gazing at the girl before him, slapped his face in disbelief, chuckling. How could this Yao Yao sister be here with you, Mr. He? What about the little sister? Wen Qingyao had met He Jinan's friends during her stay at the He residence, and their previous encounters had revealed to them that He Jinan had a younger sister living with him. They all knew Wen Qingyao was academically gifted, beautiful, gentle, and polite. But now, wasn't the situation a bit mixed up? Just kidding. He Jinan scanned the room, pulling Wen Qingyao closer to him and saying, "Call her sister-in-law." The room fell silent, confusion etched on their faces. He Jinan remained unfazed, tightening his grip on her hand. There was a bit of traffic. He briefly introduced her, seemingly indifferent to their reactions, focusing solely on Wen Qingyao. "This is Yang Zongheng. You've met him." He asked from the same courtyard. A blush crept across Wen Qingyao's cheeks as she lowered her head slightly, her voice soft yet clear. "Hello, Zongheng Ge." The dynamics had shifted, as those who once called him brother now addressed her as sister-in-law. Yang Zongheng's expression transitioned from shock to confusion, finally settling on realization. He slapped his thigh in excitement. "Goodness. He Jinan, you've kept this under wraps for long enough. This is Zhou Xuyan, an investor," He Jinan continued, introducing a bespectacled gentleman. When Qingyao discovered that her friends, despite their varied personalities, were delightful to be around, and the initial tension gradually dissipated. Once seated, Yang Zongheng eagerly inquired, "Sister-in-law, could you share how you two got together?" This fellow was notoriously tight-lipped and would not divulge anything. Was it a case of affection blossoming under the same roof over time? How could there be no hint of it at all? For a moment, she truly found it hard to accept. Just as when Qingyao was about to speak, she heard He Jinan casually remark, "Yes. It's simply a case of love developing over time." How dull, Yang Zongheng scoffed. But who pursued whom? Surely you can reveal that. When Qingyao nearly dropped her chopsticks at the table, stealing a glance at He Jinan, she noticed he was looking at her with a half-smile, clearly awaiting her response. I suppose it was me who pursued her," her voice dwindled. He Jinan naturally took over the conversation, placing a piece of fish on her plate. "I've been pursuing her for quite a while. In fact, I have loved her for many years, though she has never known." When Qingyao stared at him in astonishment, not expecting him to say such a thing, He Jinan maintained an impassive demeanor, as if stating an undeniable truth. "Is that true?" Yang Zongheng expressed disbelief. "Would you even pursue someone? I thought you only knew how to intimidate with your gaze." Laughter erupted around the table. He Jinan remained noncommittal, simply serving Wen Qingyao another bowl of soup. "Taste this, it's our signature dish," he whispered to her, his tone surprisingly gentle. Wen Qingyao nodded and took a small sip. The soup was exquisite, but she was more concerned about He Jinan's demeanor at that moment. He had seemed so angry in the car, as though she had wronged him, yet now he appeared so considerate, leaving her unable to discern what was an act and what was sincere. "By the way, when is the wedding scheduled?" Zhou Xuyan inquired. "Next month," He Jinan replied. "We will notify you once the specific date is confirmed. You must let me be the best man." Yang Zongheng raised his hand. "I was the first to bet on your singlehood ending." He Jinan raised an eyebrow. "How much did you wager?" 1 million. Yang Zongheng declared proudly. "They all doubted you would marry by 35. Upon hearing this, Wen Qingyao could not help but glance at He Jinan. "You're 35? The room fell silent. He Jinan narrowed his eyes. "You don't know how old I am?" The statement seemed ambiguous. Wen Qingyao suddenly realized her blunder and hurriedly explained, "No. I know you're 30. I just thought I had misremembered your age." "Ha ha." Yang Zongheng burst into laughter. "Sister-in-law, you are too adorable. He is teasing you. Brother Nan is only 30 this year, far from 35. When Qingyao finally understood she had been tricked, her cheeks burning, the corner of He Jinan's mouth curled slightly, clearly pleased with her reaction. "Sorry," he leaned closer to her ear, his voice low enough for only her to hear. "I couldn't resist." The warmth of his breath brushed against her ear, making Wen Qingyao's ears flush even more. She muttered softly, "You did that on purpose." He Jinan chuckled lightly, neither confirming nor denying it. This small prank seemed to elevate his spirits significantly, dissipating all previous irritation. The atmosphere of the dinner became relaxed and enjoyable. When Qingyao gradually unwound, even managing to join their conversations, she noticed that although He Jinan spoke little in front of his friends, he appeared much softer, occasionally exchanging playful banter. "Sister-in-law, you have no idea how many girls pursued him in college." Yang Zongheng, having consumed a few drinks, became more talkative, but he ignored them all. "We all suspected he might prefer men." He Jinan shot him a warning glance. Yang Zongheng immediately raised his hands in surrender. All right. I want to say another word. In any case, sister-in-law, you are impressive for managing to capture this iceberg." When Qingyao smiled shyly, yet felt a tinge of confusion. If He Jinan truly was as uninterested in women as they claimed, what then was his relationship with Cui Enyu? Or was that merely gossip? But she had witnessed Cui Enyu visiting with her parents. As the dinner neared its conclusion, when Qingyao excused herself to the restroom. Upon returning, She inadvertently overheard a conversation between He Jinan and Yang Zongheng around the corner. To be honest, I have never seen you like this. Yang Zongheng's voice held a hint of seriousness. You genuinely like Yao Yao, don't you? When Qing Yao held her breath, instinctively stopping in her tracks. She could not see He Jinan, only listening with her ears, unaware that he had nodded in response. She assumed He Jinan had not answered. After all, it did not concern her. He certainly did not like her. Yang Zongheng continued, what about Cui Enyu? She has deep feelings for you. So, Cui Enyu also liked He Jinan. Were they mutually fond of each other? Why then were they not together? When Qing Yao could not bear to listen any longer. She felt no turmoil over it, as she did not harbor feelings for He Jinan. She merely wished to avoid complications, knowing that eavesdropping was hardly commendable. Quietly retreating back to the restroom, she waited a moment before feigning a casual return. Upon entering the private room, He Jinan was standing at the door awaiting her. Why were you gone for so long? He inquired, concern evident in his gaze. I just touched up my makeup. When Qing Yao avoided his gaze, her heart still racing. He Jinan seemed to sense her unease but did not press further, simply taking her hand. It's getting late. We should head back. There are matters to attend to. When Qing Yao assumed he had unfinished work and nodded, all right. As they bid farewell, Yang Zongheng enthusiastically invited them to gather again, winking at Wen Qing Yao, leaving her bewildered. In the car on their way back, Wen Qing Yao remained distracted. He Jinan occasionally glanced at her, but remained silent. He drove into the underground garage of Yushan residence, turned off the ignition, and looked at Wen Qing Yao. Wei arrived, he said in a low voice as he unbuckled his seatbelt. Wen Qing Yao gazed out at the unfamiliar surroundings, hesitated briefly, and could not help but ask, aren't we going back to the old residence? He Jinan paused momentarily, his gaze resting on her face. Do you want to go back? No. Wen Qing Yao bit her lip, carefully choosing her words. I just thought we had always lived in the old residence. Suddenly moving out, wouldn't that be inappropriate? And we just got our marriage certificate without consulting them. If we move in together directly, will Grandpa? He interrupted her, aware of her concerns, his expression becoming serious. They understand we just got married and need our own space. They won't say anything. You need not worry about that. Or is it that you are unwilling to live alone with me? Chapter 30. If I get it wrong, I'll kiss you. When Qing Yao was taken aback by his question, her heart quickening. He Jinan leaned in closer, his long fingers gently grasping her chin, compelling her to meet his gaze. When Qing Yao, we are legally married now. What are you still worried about? His breath was tantalizingly close, and when Qing Yao instinctively held her breath, her eyelashes fluttering. No, I'm not worried about anything. I'm just not quite accustomed to it yet. Then you should get used to it quickly. You will soon adapt to waking up every morning to see my life. He Jinan replied in a calm tone. Wen Yao, you are an adult. I believe you can adapt well to your new identity and environment, my wife. When Qing Yao felt her ears flush with heat, her heart racing wildly. Why do you call me wife so naturally, and with such a pleasant voice? He Jinan chuckled softly, finally stepping back slightly to unbuckle her seatbelt. Get out of the car. I will show you our home. His tone was so natural, as if they were indeed a loving couple. When Qing Yao momentarily lost her bearings and obediently followed him out of the car. Yushan Gongguan was a top-tier luxury residence developed by the He Group, and He Jinan's unit was situated at the highest point, offering excellent privacy. The elevator went directly to the top floor, where He Jinan guided her to register her fingerprint. Standing before the fingerprint scanner, when Qing Yao felt somewhat flustered. He Jinan stood behind her, his tall figure nearly enveloping her entirely. He grasped her wrist gently, his fingertips softly lifting her hand, guiding it to the sensor. Like this. His voice was low and husky, his breath brushing against her ear. Start with your thumb. When Qing Yao's fingertips trembled slightly, his touch felt as if it had burned her skin, sending a wave of tingling sensations coursing through her. His hand was large and warm, completely enveloping her delicate fingers, his movements patient and meticulous, as if he were teaching her something of great importance. Don't be nervous. He Jinan seemed to notice her stiffness, chuckling softly. It's just a fingerprint scan. When Qing Yao's ears burned with heat as she quietly protested, I'm not nervous. Oh really? He leaned slightly closer, his lips nearly brushing against her earlobe, his voice low and seductive. Then why are your hands shaking? The sweat in your palms is almost soaking me. When Qing Yao's fingers jerked suddenly. Have you been drinking? Why do you seem a bit off? She bit her lip, her heart racing so fast it felt like it might leap from her chest. Why do you ask that? Do you think I'm drunk? She felt that he was unusually warm, and his tone had shifted to something slightly abnormal, though she dared not voice her thoughts. No, not at all. This statement almost served as a reminder to him that she was still sober and wouldn't do anything out of line. He Jinan appeared to relish her reaction, deliberately slowing his movements, his fingers gently caressing her fingertips, as if he were toying with a precious item. Index finger. He guided her in a low voice, his tone infused with a languid magnetism. When Qing Yao obediently complied, but her heart was growing increasingly chaotic. His chest was almost pressed against her back, through the thin fabric. She could distinctly feel his warmth and the crisp scent of cedarwood that forcefully invaded her senses. He Jinan. She couldn't help but call out softly, her tone laced with a hint of pleading. He responded in a low murmur, showing no intention of stepping back. Instead, he leaned in closer, his lips nearly brushing her ear. What's wrong? He was intentionally drawing nearer. When Qingyao's breath hitched, her ears burning crimson. Do I need to skin all 10 fingers? That seems unnecessary. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Also, aren't you a bit too close? Aren't you hot? Could you step back just a little? He Jinan chuckled lightly, not only refusing to step back, but also wrapping his arms around her waist, pulling her closer. I can't. His voice was deep, imbued with an undeniable authority. The scent of Wen Qingyao enveloped him, numbing his senses. He was captivated, immersed in her presence, yet maintaining a veneer of restraint and calmness, careful not to startle her. Heaven knows the tumult within him as he brought her back to their home, holding her close. Wen Qingyao felt a jolt in her heart, his words stirring her thoughts. However, before she could express anything further, he interrupted. There is no however. He Jinan pinched her fingertips, his tone leaving no room for argument. Continue registering. 3 more fingers to go. Wen Qingyao bit her lower lip, resigned to let him hold her hand as he registered her fingerprints one by one. His palm was warm and dry, his fingertips calloused, each touch sending electric currents through her, causing her to weaken. Finally, having completed the last finger, Wen Qingyao felt a wave of relief, ready to exhale, only to feel a tightening around her waist. He Jinan's arm firmly secured her, turning her to face him against the door. He Jinan, she gasped, instinctively placing her hands against his chest. What are you doing? He Jinan lowered his gaze to her, dark currents swirling in his eyes. He reached up to caress her cheek, his thumb gently brushing over her soft lips, his voice low and husky. That term isn't pleasant. Call me something else. He could no longer restrain himself. She was in his arms, the girl he had loved for years, so close. Now his wife, his woman. Everything he did was rightful, legal and moral. Wen Qingyao's eyes widened, her heart almost stopping. She opened her mouth, but no sound emerged. He Jinan's gaze deepened as he leaned closer, their noses nearly touching. If you can't call me the right name, then I shall kiss you. He longed to hear that term come from her lips. His low voice carried an edge of danger as he pressed his fingertip gently against her lips. When Qingyao's eyelashes trembled, her heart racing as if it might burst from her chest. His breath enveloped her, leaving her with no escape. Jinan, she tentatively tried, her voice soft as cotton candy. He Jinan chuckled softly, shaking his head. Not right. Before his words could fade, his lips descended upon hers, capturing her soft mouth in a fervent kiss, as if punishing her with a gentle bite. When Qingyao winced at the sudden pain, instinctively clutching his shirt. His kiss was fleeting, yet left her feeling utterly weak. Call me that again. He pressed his forehead against hers, their breaths intertwining. What did He Jinan wish her to call him? Husband. But she truly couldn't bring herself to say that. Anan, she ventured, that being the most intimate term she could think of. He Jinan's eyes darkened, his fingertip pressing firmly against her lips, his voice low and dangerous. Are you pretending to be foolish? Regardless, he cradled her head and kissed her once more. When Qingyao became breathless, her lips tingling from his kiss. He Jinan's kiss was forceful and passionate, exuding an irresistible aggression, as if he sought to melt her into his very being. He Jinan, she murmured against his chest, her fingers instinctively curling up. How could he kiss with such intensity? Had he never kissed a woman before? He held her so tightly that her breath became labored, and her waist likely bore the marks of his grip, resembling a beast that had never encountered a woman. Sensing the allure of the opposite sex, it broke free from its shackles, rampaging forward. Yet, deep within her heart, there lingered a peculiar comfort in the forceful kiss she received. She vowed that she did not intentionally refrain from calling him husband to incite his affections. He withdrew slightly, his gaze deeply fixed on her flushed lips, his voice a low rasp. I'll grant you another chance. If you do not address me correctly, we shall linger here for the entire night. Chapter 31. Suddenly, he grasped the back of her head and kissed her. When Qingyao's cheeks burned, feeling cornered, she realized that the term of address was inconsequential. His heated breath enveloped her, rendering her face rosy, and she slightly turned away, murmuring softly, husband. He immediately fixated on her, his throat constricting. The whisper was too faint to decipher. He was deliberately being difficult. Yet, the title spoken from her lips was a long-held desire of his. He caressed her waist with his fingers, igniting a shiver. When Qingyao, embarrassed and with reddened eyes, bit her lip and finally mustered the courage to lean closer, whispering into his ear, husband. This utterance, soft and trembling, ignited a fire within He Jinan, shattering his restraint. He seized her head again, kissing her fervently. This kiss was both fierce and urgent, a torrent of suppressed longing finally finding its release. He conquered her, leaving no room for retreat. When Qingyao felt her legs weaken under his kiss, her body nearly draped over him, breathless, her fingertips unconsciously clutching his shoulders. Did I not call you correctly? She accused him during a fleeting moment of respite. You did call correctly, and thus I kiss you, he replied, his arms firmly encircling her waist, pressing her against him, their bodies fitting together seamlessly without a gap. From now on, you shall call me this. Remember? He pulled back slightly, his voice husky, desire swirling in his eyes. Wen Qingyao nodded dazedly. Her lips kissed to a vibrant red, reminiscent of ripe cherries. He Jinan's gaze deepened, his fingertip brushing against the corner of her mouth. Good. Before the words left his lips, he leaned down once more, kissing her. This time, his movements were considerably gentler, savoring the moment like a gourmet delicacy, entwining with her in a passionate dance. Wen Qingyao felt a warmth envelop her, her consciousness gradually fading as she passively surrendered to his demands. Why did he relish kissing so much? Time slipped away until He Jinan finally released her, yet he still held her tightly in his embrace, resting his chin atop her head and gently nuzzling.